You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, aliens and all who... Oh, wait, no, that's good morning, Earth and all of those who inhabit it.
I am live from Huerta Roma, realizing I don't think I have the best Wi-Fi right now, which is not a good indication. Although the internet was great last year. No complaints last year.
Well, we'll see how it goes then, won't we?
I'm hoping we have good internet this year. I might just be connected to the wrong Wi-Fi. But yeah, I'm live from Huerta Roma. I came in a couple of days ago with SUNITA. Brought our youngest as well. Been chilling in Mexico. Well, not really chilling. We've been running around trying to get prepared for the conference. It's like every time, unfortunately, is the first time. I don't know why. It's just the way they operate down here. Obviously, they know us. We have a relationship with them. But it's like every time we go to do the conference here, it's like it feels like we're starting from scratch. But we're well on our way. We should be good. We're gonna try to round up the marketplace tomorrow. So that's a big component to the conference. Is the vendors that we have that attend and sell things for Monero. Really good stuff too. It's not just like shitty vendors. Really good food, really good products, all types of products, things that you'd want to use Monero to purchase. And this year we may have a different group or basically somebody new that's going to be running the marketplace. So hopefully I'll make contact with them tomorrow and get them on board. I'm sure it'll still be a lot of the same vendors that we have, but just a different person that'll be running the entire marketplace. So we'll probably have some new vendors involved as well. So that should be exciting.
Speaking of living on Monero, I was able to purchase razors and laundry soap for Monero this time on XMR Bazaar.
Nice. That's always good to hear.
Heck yeah,
it was smooth.
Just those little simple things, yeah. It was a smooth transaction, and I should be getting them in a couple of days. But that's just the kind of things you don't even think about, like razors and laundry soap and bar soap and like things like that are super useful day-to-day items, but there aren't many sellers on XMR Bazaar selling those kinds of things.
Yeah, just everyday things that we need, right? And then that's somebody that can reliably ship it for a decent price, right? Yeah, if you can make it as convenient as buying your stuff elsewhere, why not? I might as well use Monero to do it.
And of course, it was priced
I'm constantly
in
thinking. Right. I'm constantly thinking of ways of how we can make XMR Bazaar more seamless. We've been talking about potentially adding a web wallet. I know that's kind of got like a bad connotation to it in Monero. But there'd be a lot of conveniences that can come from it, and it would function like the multi-sig. So it would be, in the browser. Obviously, you hold your own keys. But yeah, if we could do that, that could allow us to maybe add things like subscription services, right? So now you can auto pay and get your soap delivered to you on a monthly basis. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Shortwave? I know I'm always throwing these novel XMR Bazaar ideas. I like to bounce them off of you in public.
That might be interesting. Otherwise, you could just do like a notification that's since you have SimpleX integrated, you could always just say, on the like the first of the month, you could say, hey, your subscription for this, and this is available. Pay 0.1 Monero, and we'll get them shipped to you or whatever. That might be something you could do too.
Oh yeah, we could definitely do that. We could definitely do that. Do notifications. Yeah. I'm just thinking in general though, like the concept of adding basically a web wallet option to XMR Bazaar accounts. Not that you need to connect one, but having it there as an option. And then it can make I think it could theoretically make multi-sig more seamless, like just the process that you have to go through. Just checking out in general, the tipping, right? Well, the tipping on the forums, we can make that much more seamless. I don't know. What do you think? Just overall concept.
Interesting idea.
I mean, you think there'd be hesitation for like in terms of people using it?
I mean, I would probably hesitate to use it, or at least if I was going to use it, I would absolutely keep it very, very low, low amount, like 0.1 Monero.
Right. Yeah. The idea isn't. Yeah. You don't. Right. You don't stuff your wallet with thousands of dollars.
I'm just concerned that somebody would get on XMR Bazaar and think, oh, there's a web wallet, there's a wallet here, and put like 20 Monero in it or whatever, and it's like, no, you don't do that.
Yeah. That would be right. So we would have to properly inform users, but it would theoretically, be pretty safe if built correctly. But yeah, we wouldn't want it to be misused. But I think there would be a lot of usability that could come out of it, and if people use it in the right way and don't abuse it, then I think it could add,
Yeah, I think it could add some. I think it could add some functionality, but I'm just really concerned about the misuse ability of that.
Maybe we have a warning indicator that goes on if it's showing too large of a Monero amount.
That could work. If it's showing anything like over 0.1 Monero or whatever, it would automatically like throw a warning and be like, "Hey, right. There's too much. There's really too much in here. You should really consider moving some."
Exactly. Speaking of SimpleX, we have them on the show today. We have the founder joining us today. Very excited. So we'll be bringing him up soon. He wanted to come on and talk about some of the drama, I would say, that's been happening around SimpleX shortwave. Have you been following it?
I've definitely heard about it, but I haven't followed it super closely.
Yeah, so we'll be able to get their side of the story. They've been criticized basically because they've been looking to add some some feature to SimpleX that they were proposing as potentially like using I believe Ethereum for. This is a community voucher system they want to build. So they're looking to use the crypto, the tool, the thing that makes the most sense for them for the purposes of adding this application. But they were getting some pushback from the Monero community. Just like I'm like gently asking Sherwood what he thinks about a web wallet, right? Like you never know with the Monero community. They're very particular about certain choices that are made, right? So there's questions as to why SimpleX isn't using Monero for these purposes. I think that the reasons are obvious. Monero is not really built for those purposes. It probably wouldn't function well for those purposes. So we're going to get into it with them. Happy to have them on stage and allow them to explain themselves. Definitely from what I'm seeing on X is they were getting way too much shit. Like, I think it's great that we have a healthy ecosystem where people push back, but I think it's a little too much sometimes. I don't know. Shortwave, were you watching it? Are you aware of the drama that played out?
Yeah, as I said, only a little bit. I figured it would get sorted out in time, and so I just haven't paid that much attention to it, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of been my take as well. So, but SimpleX wants to do the right thing. They want to come out, talk to the community. So I'm very thankful that they chose Monero Talk to do so, or Monerotopia rather. So happy to bring them up on stage, hear them out, and then we could get, people can ask questions. I know Offrin was one of the ones that was like bringing up criticisms, I think even on this show last week. So Offrin, please do jump up if you can, and we'll get you in on the conversation. If not, we could hear from other people that have questions. But what I'd like to do the price report first with Bawdy, but I don't see him, so maybe we will just jump to the guest so we can respect his time.
Oh, by the way, just out of curiosity, do you have the XMR chats pulled up?
Do I have the? Well, I haven't seen any chats come across my screen.
Okay, the reason I was asking is I don't have it pulled up. That's why I was asking if you had it.
No, I don't have xmrchat.com pulled up, but I will see the chats as people make them.
Okay, cool.
Comment section.
Just making sure.
xmrchat.com/MoneroTalk. So drop in the link there for anybody that wants to send an XMR chat. Please do so, especially if you have a question for SimpleX.
But yeah, we can just go on to the guest.
Oh, we do have Bawdy. Bawdy did just jump up. All right. All right. Let's run price report. Let's run price report because I did tell SimpleX we'd bring him up at 12 noon, so we could still get close to that. So let's do price report first. Bawdy, I'm going to go ahead and bring you up right now. Hope you're decent. Bawdy, you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
You might. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do price report, and then we'll bring up the special guest. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right, man. I'm going to run the price report.
All right, let's do it.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Speaking of Monero price, I was able to purchase 4 Third Reality Zigbee smart home plugs that I can run with Home Assistant, and it cost me I think it was 147 Monero this week.
You bought? Hang on, you bought what again?
I bought 4 Third Reality smart home plugs that are Zigbee, so that I can run them on my Home Assistant local instance and control my outlets and stuff like that.
What does that entail, controlling your outlets, smartly controlling your outlets?
So I can have like eventually what I plan on doing is getting one of those temperature sensors so that I can say if the temperature drops below this level, turn on the heater. If it rises above this level, turn off the heater. If it rises above this level, turn on the air conditioner. If it drops below this level, turn off the air conditioner, that kind of thing.
And by heater, I assume you mean your Monero miners?
Yes. Well, I wish. I have those running all the time anyway, except during the summer.
All right. That sounds cool.
But it all has to be local and self-hosted and open source, of course. So
yeah, I was gonna say it's not spying on you, is it?
No, it's not. I'm running Home Assistant, and so it's only communicating with my local Raspberry Pi here.
I mean, obviously they're already spying on everyone just based on the way that you change the mains. All of that frequency is resolvable because every time you turn something on or off, it's a certain specific load. It has specific signatures. And they're probably monitoring a lot more of that than we realize. Or
I
at least
wouldn't doubt it.
Probably at least recording that data, whether or not they're actually analyzing it after the fact. They care about us so little, man. They don't even give us our own Fed agents anymore. They just give us fucking bots to analyze all our data. Let's go back to the days when we had our own Fed agents.
Yeah, you're too much of a pleb. You're not worth a human's time. So we'll just put a bot on analyzing all of your electricity usage. to tell when you're showering with your girlfriend or whatever.
System D Lover tipped 0.001 XMR. Hello. Should there be a live stream on Rumble? If so, it doesn't seem to work. Yeah, there should be, and it's not working right now. I don't know why it's not working. It's showing that it's disconnected. Apologies for that, but thank you for the heads up. Maybe
Man, I
next show we
thought
get
that I
back up and
convinced System D Lover to stop loving System D, but I guess my
running.
explanation wasn't good enough. He hasn't changed his name. No, I'm just playing, bro.
Yeah, so buddy, I guess take it away on price. We'll keep things moving, and we'll bring up the special guest. Be great if you could stick around for that as well. I don't know if you've been following the SimpleX drama at all.
Yeah, I've been watching it. I haven't been able to really come to an opinion on it. I don't know. I don't want to rush to be like everything has to be Monero, but you know, if you can sell gift cards for Monero, then couldn't you sell SimpleX gift cards for Monero? I don't know. Well, we'll hear what the SimpleX guys have to say, and maybe some of the challenges that come up. Hopefully, some smarter people than myself ask some smart questions.
Exactly. All right, man. Take it away on price. I think another big week for privacy coins, I would say. There's been a lot of action.
Yeah, I guess so.
Dash is now a part of the privacy coin pump.
I had no idea. I don't think they knew. I don't think they knew it either. They were like, "We're not a privacy coin."
I feel like they're throwing Decred out there as a privacy coin too.
They're like Schrodinger's privacy coin. They're a privacy coin when it suits them, but not not when Binance wants to delist them.
Interesting. But yeah, go ahead. Take it away, man.
Cool. Are the charts on screen?
I
should be screen sharing.
Hold on. Yes, you're there. Boop, and I'll make it full screen for you.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, we're looking here at the Monero price, and we've had reasonably good price action this past week. If it weren't for a particular other coin, which shall not be named yet, we would be saying, hey, we're actually doing quite good. You know, if you compare to what's happening with the rest of crypto, you know, Bitcoin had another little whoopsie daisy, kind of flirting with that 99 level again. And, you know, everyone's got 99 problems, and well, Bitcoin is 99 of them in this case, apparently, unless you hold shitcoins, in which case you probably have about 9,999 problems. But as far as Monero goes, you know, everything looks pretty good, actually. Like we said, this was a positive. This is a positive chart pattern, you know, on the short term. What the hell? God damn it. I hate these guys. Dude, was fucking scumbags. They do this from time to time. How are you using our services? Are you a professional? Yes, everything I do is fucking professional. Now give me access to my charts. Stupid assholes. All right. Back to the price report. Sorry about that, guys. And I just loaded these charts this morning too. They had to do it like right now. Like I reloaded everything this morning. All right. Anyways. Okay. So we were talking about XMR price. We're saying, hey, you know, we had kind of identified that this structure was actually reasonably bullish. Let's see where we're at here on we're on 1108. So yeah, last time we talked was 1101. Yeah, so right around here we were talking. We were talking last week right around here, and we were saying, yep, this is looking like nice action. The next move to expect is up for Monero, even though, you know, the rest of crypto is kind of like not really looking that great. And so, yeah, we got some positive price action. You know, I guess you could wrap Monero into the whole privacy coin, whatever, you know, narrative. But I think those narratives in a lot of cases are just backfilled, right, to explain the thing that was already going to happen. So, I mean, Monero already had very positive price action, and our price action in a lot of ways does seem, I won't call it decoupled, but somewhat decoupled from the rest of crypto, right? Monero has certain things that appear reasonably decoupled from how the rest of crypto tends to act. So yeah, basically we've broken out. I know I drew these lines slightly different last week, whatever, you know, again, pleb lines are pleb lines. But we could probably draw something like that if we're trying to talk about pleb lines. But in reality, at this point, I kind of expect Monero to be shooting for this this purple band up here. And then hopefully we can get above, you know, this sort of rising pleb line here, and into this kind of channel. And then by the time that happens, so the way that the purple lines behave, they're kind of acceleration. They act like an acceleration metric. They'll start curving up, right? And then you kind of want to ride those. Ideally, we want to start riding those up towards the 500 level, and that would be pretty reasonable action to expect to hope for through the end of the year, right? We could potentially continue seeing positive price action for Monero through December and on into January. And personally, I would much rather see Monero continue making these nice steady gains as opposed to just shooting for the moon all of a sudden. Because when you establish supports on the way up, you respect them on the way down. Pullbacks respect supports that have been well established. They tend to, and again, it's like there is kind of a move. Like there is now more attention on privacy coins. A lot of the events of the past couple years have put a lot more attention on privacy and cryptocurrency, and Zcash for all their retardation, they are kind of shining a light on privacy. For them, it's privacy exclam trademark, but there is probably some spillover that happens into Monero, because anyone that's hearing privacy, they start investigating, and they're like, well, this Monero coin's actually pretty good, despite the lies that Mert likes to promulgate on his.
Speaking of Zcash, did you notice that apparently Binance, if you send shielded Zcash that has ever been shielded to them, they will automatically seize it or freeze it or whatever and reject it? I
am Jack's complete lack of surprise. It's the same with Gemini. Someone the other day was like, yeah, but Gemini accepts Zcash. I'm like, no, they accept Tcash. Just like Spirobel said, there is no Zcash on exchanges. It's all Tcash. It's like, yeah, but you can directly deposit from your Zcash into the Tcash address. Like, okay, but exchanges don't have Zcash. They have Tcash. That's it.
And if you do take your Zcash out of the shielded pool and put it back in Tcash and send it to an exchange, they're still likely to deny it because it came out of a shielded pool at some point.
I guess supposedly Gemini isn't like that, bro. That's what they want us to believe.
That's what Binance is doing, though, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, they're U.S. government controlled now. I mean, they kind of always were, but they were like hidden agenda, deep state types of control, plus the golden age of fraud kind of stuff. And now they're like more officially front-facing government regulated, as opposed to the hidden agenda, deep state type of control. I know that sounds crazy, but Jesus, that's just how the world works. So conspiratorial, but fuck. All right. Anyways, yeah. So Monero price looking nice here. I'm enjoying this. I'm a Monero price enjoyer. I guess we can continue to expect some positive, movement here for Monero. That would make sense. Like, again, I would hope, I'm not totally predicting it, but I would hope the next movement would be to beat this line and just go straight to the 400 area. Right, so currently sitting at 357. I would hope to go straight to that 400 area and then establish support somewhere around like 370, 380, right, and then start riding this channel higher. Does that actually happen? I don't know, right? But that would be like an ideal. That would be a nice ideal basic chart pattern that would signal continued gains.
By the way, perfect body, saying beating this line and going straight to the 400, that makes it super easy for those of us who are listening on audio or blind. That's perfect.
It's no problem, man. But I'm telling you, like, pictures, I know, I mean, sorry, I'm not trying to be a hater. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Like, these lines that I'm showing, like, they're like informationally dense. There's a lot of information here in these lines, to the point that I really need to train an AI to fucking analyze this, because there's a lot of signal in here that human eyeballs can't see all the time. So I do that when I can. I try to remember to do that when I can, but realistically, like, if you're listening on the radio, you're not going to get what you would otherwise get out of this price report unless you're watching it. Like, okay, you can hear my predictions, like, okay, well, Bawdy thinks price is going to do X, Y, and Z, but my goal here is to give you guys the tools that you need to analyze price for yourself, more or less, right? To give you like the ideas that you need to, like, we started, for a long time is very centered on the macro. At the moment, macro is boring, and that's actually good for price typically. All right. Anyways, onward we go. XMR BTC currently sitting at about 0.003. So yeah, we've beaten the lower standard deviation lines now. We poked our head above it. Typically, when you do this twice like this, especially in quick succession after a dramatic breakdown, in this case, we're talking about breakdown starting pre 2024, right? So like the end of 2023. So this has been a long breakdown, and this is a very nice chart pattern. This is stability. This doesn't necessarily say that the ratio has to go higher. We're not necessarily like this chart doesn't necessarily say that, but it does give you the feel good, the optimism on that. We've now 1, 2, 3 times come against the upper blue bands here, and now once again, we are poking above the orange bands. So hypothetically, in a bad case scenario, this thing could do one more fall like to this area, right, and then come back up and then start going, or it could just keep going right now. And that obviously that's my preferred scenario, and I think that's the more likely scenario for Monero here over the coming weeks and months. If not immediately launch Monero versus Bitcoin, if not immediately launching higher to maybe like have some kind of support, maybe it goes slightly higher, retouches this vertical resistance, comes down, and then goes something like that, right? Like that would be a very reasonable thing to happen. That's the more likely thing to happen, to do some kind of floor setting on the ratio and then to start moving higher. Incidentally, that kind of would indicate a potential hiatus to the bull market, at best hiatus, or maybe guys, maybe that October 10th date or whatever it was, the cycles, the exact number of days from the bottom, maybe that was the signal and we all just didn't believe it because it seemed too obvious. But anyways, yeah, things looking good here overall in the Monero price. The dominance obviously is going to look very similar, and you can see here, dominance already is like kind of starting to break out. I wouldn't believe this entirely. We're kind of hitting this zone of resistance right here on the dominance at 0.22%, 0.20%. And also, this would be the first time that price is trying to get above a new shorter term set of standard deviation bands. So this has gotten above them. It's not quite out of hand yet, but typically you don't just smash through unless you're like the stock market. So with the dominance here, looks slightly different than the XMR versus BTC chart. Maybe there's a little bit more consolidation that has to happen there. I don't know. We're really like just arguing about how many angels are dancing on the head of a needle over here. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing there on those charts. Very, very like nuanced stuff. Don't take too much of that like too far. Okay, let's look at the divergences to Kraken. Nothing looking crazy here, except for Polo is always schizophrenic, but everyone else is pretty close on that 0 point. Maybe the past few days they've been slightly above Kraken's price. That would kind of make sense. We tend to see that when Monero is positive. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the privacy altcoins. Everyone wants to hear about Zcash. We'll just start with them. You can see that my tools, my Wave Magic is not exactly useful on the daily timeframes. This thing smashed up. It looks like it smashed up yesterday all the way to 741. Now currently pulled back to 522. Listen, bros, probably those of you making these kinds of posts aren't even listening right now. But if you are, stop saying stupid shit like, oh, it's over and everyone's dumping Zcash now. You've said that like 4 fucking times now. Like you said that at 300 and then it pulled back to like 200 and you're like, oh, it's over. Everyone's selling. And it's like, well, no, then they like, that's just how charts with massive volatility behave. That's just how a chart that's going parabolic, double parabolic behaves. It goes up by insane amounts. It pulls back 50% and then it goes up by insane amounts, again. So like there was a whole bunch of people at like 400 or maybe it was 500. And then there was like a dip, maybe not a whole bunch, but there was there were Monero bros out there being like, oh, that's it. It's over. The Zcash pump is over. It's falling now. And everyone's selling. The scam is done and pack it in. They said it again at like, I saw another one yesterday or maybe it was 2 days ago. And it's like, just stop. Like that doesn't help your credibility. It just says that you don't understand how double parabolic markets work. You don't understand how these massive pump and dumps work. This thing can go high as it needs to wreck the shorts. Do not get short Zcash unless you are no shit a market genius and you understand this shit at a very deep level. Do not short Zcash. You will lose all your money. Okay. I don't know how high this thing is going, but it can easily go higher. So like just I know there's a little bit of exasperation there, guys, but I'm just like, why? God damn it, guys. I already did this. Sorry for those listening. Stupid Trading View just has to. I have a whole bunch of tabs loaded and it doesn't, the other tabs don't know that I just re-verified whatever. Let's see if this is going to be degenerate again. Please don't be retarded. All right, it looks like it's not going to be retarded. Okay. Yeah, so I know there's a little bit of exasperation there. It's just that, like, you know, it doesn't help you or Monero to sit there and be like, that's it, it's over, you know, Zcash. Like, all it does is end up contributing when the real crash does happen and all of the influencers come out of nowhere, or all the influencers come out and they're like, oh, you guys have called, this is the 5th time you've called the end of the pump, and this time it actually is at the end of the pump, and then they just point to all your other tweets and be like, look, you don't know what you're talking about, this isn't the end of the pump. And meanwhile it is the end of the pump, and they convince all the plebs that are listening to them, which I'm not convinced is actually all that much. So there's kind of a thing. Let's stop and talk here a little bit. So we're on the 2 hour here on Zcash, and you can actually see on shorter timelines, Wave Magic has been fairly useful to help us identify when topping points may have happened. This entire sort of riding this blue band up is actually, like, you would look at that and say, nah, don't short any of that on, like, just a Wave Magic technical analysis standpoint. And again, you know, hitting this purple band up there, that's exactly a spot you would expect to get some resistance. And so there's a pullback. So, you know, like, if you have some special tools to analyze stuff like this, then okay, you might be able to short this. It's still incredibly dangerous. You know, don't go buck ass wild doing it. But you know, if you don't really know what you're doing, do not short Zcash, please, guys. You're just going to lose your money, and it's going to go to the Zcash guys, right? They're just going to take your money and buy more Zcash with it, right? They're going to use that. They're going to wreck the shorts and then that'll pump the longs. So, I know everyone's kind of pissed about it, but you just got to let this thing play out. And as far, like I said early on, this seems like they could probably continue this for some period of time. It appears like this sort of, they know that Monero has full chain membership proofs coming. They've probably been saving this pump and keeping it in their back pocket for a long time, right? To try and distract attention from Monero. I'm not entirely convinced, to be honest, so it looks like there are Solana influencers. In fact, it looks like there are a lot of Solana influencers involved with this whole Zcash pump. Like, and that makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because who has the most botted AstroTurf fucking AI leveraged LLM you know, social fabric? It's the Solana meme coin guys, right? Obviously, these are like, all of the meme coin shit went into Solana. That's like the premier platform for all that degeneracy. And what do? They got their Telegram groups, and they've got all their bots and their LLMs, and they fake, you know, they fake all the plebs adopting, and they've got their influencers. And, you know, these guys are probably hand selected, or they're probably chosen, right? Maybe some of it's organic, but I mean, just everything we've seen, like, they so often, like, people that rise to stardom, especially in the, like, this kind of golden age of fraud, you know, they're usually like selected or picked, right? They're usually either that, or there's like some kind of background deals working. Anyways, Solana is the fucking coin that is just extremely botted. And that's what we saw. Like, Twitter just exploded in a way that, like, I've almost never seen, except for Charlie Kirk. I have never seen the kind of, like, bot explosion that came out of nowhere like Zcash did. And Charlie Kirk wasn't even a bot explosion. It was just algorithm promoted. And there was a bunch of bots there too, but, you know, it's like 50% bots on Twitter anyways, right? But the point is that, like, the Solana guys are, like, have the infrastructure, the knowledge, the know-how, and the wherewithal to do it. And for whatever reason, you know, all these guys pivoted out of Solana, and now they're, like, maybe not out of Solana, but they pivoted. There's Solana guys pivoting to Zcash. So I don't know exactly what's going on there. I haven't really thought too deeply about any of that. But actually, I want to credit Techno Revenant, who actually gifted me the blue checkmark on X a few months ago. But I chat with him sometimes, and that was actually an interesting theory that he that he posited, basically that some of the Solana guys are trying to, I don't know, pivot to privacy or something. So anyways, that's kind of an important, like, characterization of what might be happening here and why this thing has legs. I have to believe that there's still some kind of coordination with the cabal that it does intend to suppress Monero, that wants to suppress Monero. And this is just another way of doing it, right? It could backfire in the sense that it's going to shine a spotlight on privacy. So Monero actually, believe it or not, should be some kind of recipient of this spotlight. That would be my kind of like long-term thinking on this. Anyways, Zcash sitting here at $500 was currently or was previously yesterday 750. Don't short this thing, guys. I don't want you guys to get wrecked. Just focus on Monero. Okay. Like, yeah. Counter the stupid things that people are saying on Twitter or whatever, I guess.
If you are going to be degenerate and short it, then do it with like 0.5% of your portfolio.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't. Shorting is inherently a leverage activity. So, yeah, you probably shouldn't be trading with more than 0.5%. If you want to be an absolute fucking DJ, and you could put like 5 or 10% onto a trading stack. But when you lose 5, like if you get wiped out at 5 or 10%, you do that a few times, you're gonna start hurting, right? And you like, if you're young, you can sustain that, but you know, if you're 50, you shouldn't you shouldn't be doing that. You need to play it safer. All right, let's take a look at the other privacy altcoins. I oscillate every week between calling them shitcoins and altcoins. Xano still looks like it's in this consolidation phase where it's the volatility is compressing, right? Lower highs and higher lows. Eventually, this will break one way or the other, probably whatever direction the crypto market breaks in general. Firo seems to actually be doing pretty good here. I mean, that's after having done quite bad for a long time, but what kind of gains were they getting? That's pretty good. 3x, 3.5x since October. And then Pirate Chain trying to pretend like they're cool like Zcash, but not being cool like Zcash. They had a nice pump from the very, very bottom to the tippity top. They got 7x, which is that's pretty good. So since about April. What have you done for me lately? Well, lately they've done a 3.5x. That's pretty good since beginning of October. Currently, they're trying to beat that 66 cents level. Well, they didn't quite hit 66.6 cents. Yeah. Oh, actually, if you round up, they did. All right, so you heard it here first. Pirate Chain hit the 666 number. Obviously, that is the mark of the beast, and so shouldn't own any Pirate Chain as a result. Just kidding, guys. Jeez, take a joke. Bad joke. Just dumb boomer jokes over here. That's all I got for you. Cubic is having problems. Remember, we said last week that it did not look good. They weren't looking good. They could salvage it, but you know, now at this point, the Cubic attack is over, guys. Like, I won't say that's the final word. You know, it's not the final answer, but the Cubic attack is more likely than not over. Pivot to Zcash as the distraction thingy. So we said, here's what to expect. If it breaks down, at some point it'll touch the underside of these lines and then it'll break down again. So that's just how these patterns work. You could short Cubic actually. If Cubic somewhere around this bottom orange band, so that would be 0.1146 times 10 to the negative 5. I don't know how many zeros. I guess that's 5 zeros and then some ones. I don't know, guys. If you're really interested in shorting Cubic, you'll have to come back and like just eyeball scrutinize these charts to get these levels. I would, if I was shorting Cubic, I would probably put my first entry here and my second entry here. I'm not saying that you should short Cubic, but wouldn't it be funny if some people did and got paid off doing it? I don't know. Again, shorting is dangerous when you're talking about dealing with the cabal. They have extra money. They can wipe out the shorts, even if the chart patterns say, you know, that's not the next thing that should happen, quote unquote, should. But yeah, it's just be careful shorting, guys, because that's it. It's a necessary thing for bull markets to continue, but you don't want to be the necessary thing. You don't want to be that liquidity. Okay, Minotari had a little bit of a pullback here this week, actually, really for the past couple weeks. So again, like we said, this actually might be a reasonable spot to pick up some Tari. This is looking like stabilization. Probably, maybe there needs to be another revisit down, you know, another 10 or 20%. Let's do a measurement here. It wouldn't surprise me if 40%. Wow, Jesus. All right, at this point, you know, you just buy it and hold it and say, if I lose it, if it goes to zero, whatever. Like that's how you play these new coins. And that's, you know, throw $1,000 on it and be like, if I lose it, I don't care. Or maybe that level is $100 for you. Maybe it's 10,000. Maybe some of you have a milli to throw around. You just throw a milli on Minotari. If you did, that would pump the price actually. All right, so that looks like privacy coins for today. Let's go to crypto in general. Crypto in general, just like having problems. Like we said, it just doesn't, like, this is a bull market for ants, guys. This doesn't feel right. Now, if it's going to be extended, all right, we could tolerate this. If the bull market is going to extend into next year, maybe another 12 months, for as long as the macro holds up, then we could say, all right, fine, whatever. We can tolerate a return to 92, 91,000. In light of the stock market, that doesn't feel good. In the sense that the stock market had a nice big pump. Yeah, I know it fell this week. Whatever we had. How much did it go down? -3%, but then ended -2.3%. But I mean, that's still just flat from where it was a month ago. Like, this is very normal stock action. This is actually very, very good action. So if the stock market continues up next week, that sets a nice floor that makes the channel believable. If the stock market rebounds here to the top side, that looks really nice. Now we got to come back to the Trump tariffs. So the Trump tariffs are in question right now. They're actually finally being reviewed. We talked about this in April, that they got struck down, but then the injunction relief happened, so the tariffs remained. And then the Supreme Court was like, we're going to hear the case in July. And then I don't know, for whatever reason, it wasn't until November. So now they're hearing the case. And I don't know, supposedly they were like grilling the Trump lawyers, the tariff lawyers, about, the tariffs bad, unconstitutional, something, whatever. I didn't read the transcript. Here's the point. If they rule that the tariffs are unconstitutional, or unconstitutional, then they're going... There's this question about, is the $1 trillion paid to the federal government in tariffs going to have to be repaid by the federal government, which is shut down, which I'm fine with them shutting down. I just wish they would shut down more of it. Currently, the only parts that they've left open are the worst, most horrible parts of that government. So, yeah, that's the biggest fuck you they can give to everyone. Fire the ATC, right, the air traffic controller, so that, and then cancel flights. But yes, by all means, please continue creating a Gestapo with face masks that don't show badges. But anyways, besides all that, if the federal government has to repay $1 trillion, that's a lot of problems. That's inflation. They're going to have to print the money, obviously. Like, where are they going to get it from? Like, so they'll have to print the money. That'll cause inflation. And, like, what's that going to be? Like, if the Trump tariffs get struck down, that could be good for the markets. But then there's the counterbalance of, well, now the government has to pay out all these tariffs. But at the same time, paying out $1 trillion to companies that paid taxes, that's like a tax refund. That's like Monopoly guy, like, tax refund. He, if you've seen the, anyways, that's a massive, that's a boost for their balance sheet, right? So that kind of means stock market positive if the Trump tariff gets struck down, but it also kind of means like this uncertainty about the economy, and like, when will those companies ever get that money? And is the government just going to stay shut down so that they don't have to pay out that $1 trillion for as long as possible? I don't know, right? We're in shit's not right, guys. Like, the macro looks fine on paper here, but in terms of what's actually happening out there in the political realm, like, shit's weird, man. Like, this, we haven't done this before. Like, this is stuff that has never been done. And I know it's always never been done, like in 2008, but and the Rona, but shit's just weird, guys. I'm just going to tell you right now, things don't look normal. So anyways, back to Bitcoin. Where the fuck is this thing going to go? I'm going to say, listen, if the stock market is able to put on a floor, starting this week, then you're going to see a turnaround in Bitcoin. I feel like this is the kind of chart pattern that everyone is afraid of right now. And everyone is looking for that next move down to crash back to 90,000. I think everyone's feeling that. So it kind of, like, in a counter signal way, makes me feel, and especially again against the backdrop of the macro, kind of makes me feel like, hey, Bitcoin should see some kind of relief towards the upside if the rest of the stock market is playing along nicely. And that would also be somewhat a little bit congruent to the notion that the XMR BTC ratio might be a little bit overextended, on the short term. It's not to say it can't go higher. We might actually see another move XMR higher on the XMR BTC ratio. Very could well happen. But it's a strong, healthy signal would need a little bit of consolidation before going even higher, right? So maybe a little bit of a bounce, some consolidation, and then higher. In which case, again, that's like, because we're looking at the ratio of XMR to BTC, we would use that as a corroborating signal here to say, all right, maybe it's time for Bitcoin to go up a little bit. You would try and say, hey, these red lines here, they tend to act, especially the way that these red lines sort of appeared out of the ether, out of nowhere. Those red lines often act as a nice stopping point for pullbacks that aren't actually reversals, right? this is probably not a permanent reversal, into the bear market. This is just a pullback. So this would be actually a really nice spot for it. There's some like blue bands here also kind of clustered together or whatever. So overall, I would actually expect this wouldn't be a bad spot to get long to, if you're getting your paycheck or you got some profits because you're a Zcash believer, true believer, you could rotate that into some Bitcoin now. You could unencrypt your Bitcoin into just regular Bitcoin and then maybe make that trade. So let's see what else we got here. Z-scores, Monero is doing better than all the rest. Better than all the rest when you compare itself to its own history. That's what Z-scores do. Everything else kind of having problems here. Okay, whatever. Who cares? I don't see anything interesting except for the fact that Binance coin was the most recent pumper. Okay. I guess CZ, he's out of prison now, so he can. And it's so funny. It's so funny when you talk about the fraud in crypto and people online will be like, what, you just some conspiracy theorists. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Do you think that Sam Bankman and CZ went to prison over a little whoopsie daisy? Like, Sam Bankman is in prison for 25 years, and it's not like he was a cypherpunk doing fucking privacy, right? He was running a fraudulent exchange. Like, they're like, what do you mean there's fraud in crypto? Where's your proof? Like, please. Anyways, that's just a side note, kind of funny. Let's take a look at the macro, and then we'll be in and out. So gold is probably going to start moving higher here soon. It's finding a support. It's hard to see anything here on the daily, where gold is pumped so hard, kind of like Zcash, it's above its wave magic levels. Like, it's just not on the daily, at least. So we have to go to shorter time frames to look at it. And when we do, what we see is a little bit of stabilization here. It would be extremely weird for this thing to just be like, oh, I'm going to crash and burn now. Right. The next move is going to be to touch this upper standard deviation band here somewhere, like 4,100, maybe 4,200. We are going to be looking for that. And again, that's why I say, hey, it's going to take until next year for this thing to really resolve one way or the other. Hopefully, we want to see it resolve towards the upside. If they got to print $1 trillion and they're still lowering rates, that would actually be pretty bullish for gold. So, but it's still, it's still probably going to take until next year for this thing to test that resistance, some falling volatility, and then start to break out again, and then start moving higher, right? So something like that. I don't know. Maybe it could happen by December, but just, like I said, don't expect massive gold gains here, but there should be a rebound. If you're a trader, you could buy some GLD and get in on a little bit of positive gold action and shoot for that. How many percentage would that be? About 4 to 5% higher. You could shoot for that, and but don't get greedy there, because that pattern is just going to need time to resolve, and that's like psychological, if nothing else. All right, dollar index stable, slightly rising. Actually, this is starting to look a little bit like it might want to try to break out soon. This is not a problem yet. This is the kind of thing we would be looking well into next year, like maybe Q2, until, like, if this thing started moving up, we would start saying, hey, it could a rise in gold be signaling a time for a big pullback in the market? We're not there yet. Just giving you some future ideas. Oil hasn't done much. It's still kind of on the down, which is interesting. I would have expected the news with the Trump tariff trial looking somewhat mildly positive for getting rid of that tariff. You would think that oil should be happier about that, but it doesn't seem to be. So I haven't thought too much about that. Probably there's something I'm missing, right? Obviously, the markets are always right, and they're so rational and organic all the time. Anyways, reverse repos still zero. Yeah, nothing there. Nothing important happening as reverse repos. Silver, this chart always goes back to the monthly. I always think I save it, but I guess I don't. I don't know. Let's see. Silver versus gold continues to be about flat. So silver performing about the same level that gold is performing. Here we go. Here's the silver chart. Sorry, a little bit of slowdown here. This is bullish though. Silver beat its previous all-time high, and now it looks like it's going to be trying to set some kind of floor. This still does look like a lot of air to me, right? This chart has a lot of air below it. Maybe if we come down to a shorter time frame, we can find a little bit more. Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of a similar pattern to gold. If you think about it, right? Basically finding some stability here. You'd expect silver to try and shoot back for that $50-$51 area. As just like a natural, rebound, right? Up, down, up. We already looked at the stock market, nothing there. Curious what Shanghai is doing. Shanghai continues to be reasonably bullish. Expect Shanghai to get stopped out by this extremely long-term, 2 decades long trend line right here. I don't think anyone here is trading Shanghai, but China kind of matters, sort of. So, anyways, China has had a very. You'll notice that China, from their 2008 levels, they never actually recovered. They've just been in this like sideways chop since forever, despite all the Chinese money printing. So, like, that's pretty bad. That's terrible if you're a Chinese investor, long-term investor. All right, I guess that's enough. There's nothing else really here that matters that much that we need to look at. So, yeah, in general. So, just to sum it all up, don't short Zcash. Monero looking reasonably good. Hoping that Monero goes straight to 400 and then does some consolidation. Bitcoin, my guess is that we're actually finding this is probably a bottom, pretty close to a bottom, and stock markets also still looking nice, macro looking stable. So the next thing that we want to see on the stock markets is a rebound next week. Hopefully next week. We don't want to see it dwaddle here more than a few days. We want to see next week closing strong, and that should lead to gains in the crypto system. So that's all I got for you guys.
All right, we do have some super chats, XMR
I
chats.
missed them.
Brown Eagle tipped 0.000123 XMR. Love you, buddy. Can I take a selfie with you at Monerotopia? So
sure, man, absolutely.
XMR family tipped 0.1 XMR. SimpleX token launch reminds me of Signal's mobile coin. Yes, I know it's different, but you were still trying to create a new payment. Get your free NFT from our website so you can use SimpleX token. When I saw that, I thought, what the fuck is that? Yeah, we could ask that question to SimpleX when we bring them up. Another one for Bawdy, though. Anon tip 0.002 XMR. Hi, Bawdy. Can you take a look at Litecoin? And do you think that Dogecoin's performance can beat LTC this cycle, since they are merge mines, so miners aren't as likely to hodl and limit the supply because it's just side gains to their Dogecoin mining business? Wow.
All right, so I'm bringing up the Litecoin chart. Let me read that one more time.
Yeah, go for it.
Can Dogecoin's performance can cuck? Do you think that can cuck LTC? So miners aren't as likely to hodl and limit the supply, side gains to the Dogecoin. Yeah, those are interesting dynamics. They are merge mined, and there is a question over which coin do they want to hold, if any. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be some pretty big selling pressure. I guess Litecoin is probably pretty far along in its emissions curve by this point. I mean, they launched in 2014, so I imagine they're pretty low. So it probably doesn't matter that much, but it really depends on how big the organic usage is. Let's start from the big picture. All right, so on the weekly, this isn't a terrible chart pattern, but it's difficult to look at this and then say, hey, your gains are, your Litecoin gains are coming, are on the way. Personally, I can't look at Litecoin or Dogecoin as being, maybe Dogecoin is a performer because of the meme coin aspects, but it's hard for me to look at Litecoin and think of it as like a strong performer in any like price sense. I've never looked at Litecoin as having great potential for the old glory days. It had its narrative. It was a good narrative, where the Diet Pepsi of Bitcoin back in, from 2014 to 2018. And they managed to sort of recoup the old glory days back in that crazy degen bull market we had 4 years ago. But is that going to happen again? Nah, man, the narrative just doesn't support it now. Like, the narrative's shifted. Everything's different. Litecoin is a utility coin that you use to get into other coins, right? Its best use cases. Use Litecoin when Bitcoin fees suck. Use Litecoin to get into your other coins, right? So it's going to be hard to say that I see anything good there. Let's take a look at the ratio. So LTC USD divided by, actually, let's do Doge. Doge USD divided by LTC USD. And let's turn on the wave magic. In a lot of ways, I feel like almost lost in my chart sometimes without the wave magic. I can kind of see it without, in a lot of cases, I can see the general ideas without these lines turned on, but they really are nice reference points. It's kind of like pleb lines, like if you have a certain way of drawing pleb lines, understand that in a lot of ways, those pleb lines are just reference points for you. They help you identify stuff and features of the chart that you wouldn't otherwise normally, that wouldn't be so clear. And so in a way, the wave magic is a very similar kind of thing. It's, again, descriptive in a lot of ways, not prescriptive. So Dogecoin versus LTC. This actually looks strong for LTC, believe it or not. This sorry, let me rephrase that. I wouldn't say this looks strong, but this does. You would kind of expect Doge should have had more pump here. The last pump that it got was in the end of 2024, and then since then it hasn't really done a whole lot. Let's take a look at how much percentages this is ranging. So it's ranging 50 to 100%, right? So it's right now. I guess I would say I would. You know what I would do, man? If Anon, if I was you, I would try to match up these pumps here, and I would say, hey, how much do these pumps correlate with some kind of other activity in the market? Like, is Bitcoin positive during this time, right? Or are these total market cap increases during the pumps of Dogecoin? And that'll tell you what to do, because if that is the case, and I suspect it might be, then if we start seeing a resurgence in the bull market, right? Bitcoin starts heading back to the 125 area, you're going to see Dogecoin outperforming Litecoin. And if we get the degen spikes, the stupidness that we're all hoping for to get our gains, whatever, then you could expect Dogecoin to make some kind of pump here to the upside. But in general, I wouldn't look at this chart and necessarily have confidence that Dogecoin or Litecoin is going to outperform the other over long time frames. I guess you might slightly bias in favor of Doge. No, I couldn't say that. Yeah. So I would honestly, because they're merge bind together, maybe they're bonded together in kind of way, right? Like in a sort of like informal, they end up de facto bonded together in terms of their price behaviors, their price performance. So that's the long answer to your question. I don't really have a big opinion on it. I would need to probably stop and think about it some more. But hopefully that's some ideas for you.
Okay, yeah, you got another one over here. Elvin Thrust tipped 0.0011 XMR. Have you looked at quantum stocks?
He says, yeah, have you looked at quantum stops? We are Monero pros, but doesn't mean we can't make money outside to then bring back to the community. IonQ, Rig TI, QBTS are some good examples. All right, let's quickly look at those. I'll tell you, yeah, it's a lot to look at. We won't go into crazy analysis mode on these. Let's okay, so this is a new one. It looks like 2021. This is a positive price chart right here. Like you would expect, this thing probably wants to continue making gains. Although if you looked at the RSI, I promise you the RSI is already that's a lower high on the RSI if you looked at that. So it probably has more pump to go, but the next pump, I would take my money and run on that one. It is not yet the time for, just in a general sense, my thinking on it, it's not yet the time for quantum stocks. That will be the next thing that happens. They'll make some big breakthrough, whether it's a breakthrough or not, who knows, but they'll make some breakthrough, and that'll be like the next pumpage thing. Like there's the AI, that was this cycle. There's going to be the civil unrest, right? Maybe civil war, who knows, right? But the civil unrest is coming, and that'll be the reason for the next crash, whatever. Then they'll reinflate the bubble, and probably, I guess, maybe next will be quantum stocks. We'll have to we'll take it easy on that one. Maybe it's not quite right. Maybe there will have to be a round 2 first of the AI. But at some point, quantum stocks will be the next bubble to inflate, and then it'll be time to really jump in on these stocks. You'll notice this guy crashed. Wow, 95%. QBTS crashed 95% 2023 before. Well, I mean, obviously it's made massive gains since then. That's 10,000%. Wow, you could be retired on that, or almost retired. This too is also a positive. This is currently bullish stock right here. This thing could continue going. So yeah, that would be my quantum ideas.
All right.
I yield the remainder of my time.
And yeah, one final XMR chat from Alex Anarcho. What's up, man? Tipped 0.034 XMR. Just sending some love over the Monero network via XMR chat, my fully sovereign wallet via my self-hosted node. The future is now. Yeah, thank you, man. And I love that we have the XMR chats coming in the form of Monero now. That's very nice. Nice new feature. We do have some new things that we've added to XMR chat. I'm trying to maybe have Fiat Demise come on, and he can give us all the updates on what's going on with XMR chat.
I would say,
go ahead, Shoreway.
Sorry, I would just quickly say that I think one of the bigger things to do would be to change the denomination to Millinero. Like, actually, like write out like instead of do like 100 Millinero, Millinero, and actually spell it out. That way, people know how to pronounce it, and that way you just get the easier of saying instead of 0.034, you can say 34 Millinero.
Okay, all right.
That would be my next thing.
Always leading the charge on thinking in terms of Monero. I love it. Another feature we added is notifications via Signal and SimpleX. So I now get notified when I get an XMR chat, and I could set it to over a certain threshold. So like only tips above 0.1 XMR, right? Or even 1 XMR. And then it could become a good tool for to send a super DM, to be able to DM anybody that's willing to receive that DM as long as you tip over a certain threshold. So that's an exciting new feature that we added as well. I just saw those come in on my Signal. I forgot I had set it up. I set it up for over 0.1 XMR. So because XMR family just tipped 0.1 XMR, I got the message, which is very cool.
And that is an incredible, absolutely freaking incredible feature.
Yeah, Buddy, you should set up an XMR chat, and then we could just pull up yours when you give your price reports. But then in general, people can use it to, if they want to consult you, right? They could send you an XMR chat over a certain threshold to get sent to your Signal. They might ask you a specific question.
I mean, I've got them pulled up here on the right. It's a matter of, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Like I'm talking.
Oh yeah, no, that aspect. Yeah, no, same here.
Yeah, I get. Oh no, but you
have an XMR chat? Did you set up your own XMR chat?
No, I have the XMR chat for Monero Talk here pulled up on.
Oh yeah. No, but you should set up your own as well, just to use as a way for people to connect with you.
Oh, okay.
Ask you questions. Yeah.
Yeah. I suppose so.
I know you don't like getting paid for your services, but it's a tip, right?
And it's consulting, and now I'm a financial advisor. Like, I'll have to change my name, Bawdy, not your financial advisor, anarchist. How contradictory would a name like that be? It's like you just said you're an anarchist, and now you're like complying with the laws about not being your financial advisor, bro. Like, what the fuck? The irony.
Nihilus tipped 0.00123 XMR hype for Evgeny. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm gonna have to ask when he's on. Evgeny's talk, but keep in mind how SimpleX works. You can run your own SimpleX server, even if .onion only. Run your own chat rooms there only, without even being isolated from the rest of the SimpleX user base. Cool. Yeah, so we'll bring that up. With the SimpleX man himself. We might as well jump to that right now. Buddy, would you like to stick around for this?
Sure. Yeah.
Did you get your input? Yeah, cool.
Hey, how's my volume? I actually just realized I have my volume pumped up on my own soundboard. Am I too loud?
No, you're fine. You've been fine this entire time.
Oh, okay, cool. Maybe StreamYard adjusts that automatically.
All right, I'm going to bring up Evgeny. I don't think I'm pronouncing it right, but let me go ahead and run the guest segment.
Okay. The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
Hello.
All right, what's going on, man? How's it going?
Well, busy times, lots going on. Thanks a lot for having me in, Doug.
Yes, of course. How do I pronounce the name again? Please remind me how to properly
you do it right. Evgeny is right.
Evgeny. Okay, Evgeny.
You remember when we met, by the way?
Yes, we met in Texas, right? I think it was the
Correct. Yes, that
first
was
time.
me
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
talk at some Finny Forum event, I think. And
Yes.
yeah, I like what you're doing, man, with this Monerotopia and XMR Bazaar. This is really,
Oh,
really
thank you.
cool.
Thank you.
And you made
And-
it look like we're sponsoring this show. So, we're not, by the way. So, and thanks a lot.
No,
Yes.
we've integrated on our own accord. We've integrated you into XMR Bazaar. We've integrated into XMR Chat because it's a great tool. I mean, we love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Excited to have you on the show, and I'm always excited to see that you are obviously you're interested in Monero. That's always a good indicator for me that somebody like you is supportive of Monero. But I wanted to bring you on today, and you wanted to come on today because I know there's been a lot of FUD that's out there since you guys have proposed some potential changes. And I just wanted to bring you on, let you air it out, tell the community exactly what it is you're looking to do, and you can get feedback here as well. I'm sure. I do see that Offron is in the backstage, so I could bring him up as well at some point, and he can ask you questions. But
sure.
Yeah, I'll give you the stage. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Look, I think community has always been polarized about what we do since day one. It's just the stage for this polarization was different because I think it's the innovator's curse, right? So you do something that people don't understand or think impossible, and I remember when I was saying 5 years ago that we're going to build a network when people can communicate without having any identity, and technologists were saying, "Oh man, you're lying, right? This is like technically impossible, right?" And there was lots of FUD about that. And then it's just the venue changes, right? So like it started on Reddit, and we had lots of engagements, and then I see this whole kind of criticism and discussions as exceptionally valuable and helping us, right? I don't think that by criticizing us, people somehow not help us, right? Because I'm entrepreneur, right? I don't like if we're humble enough, then we know that we don't know what we're doing, right? That's an honest view, right? And by having community feedback and criticism, and it only helps, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, a good entrepreneur listens to their customers, right? I mean, that was
the whole point of going this announcement, because we did as much research as we could about what we could do, about what we should do in isolation from community. And by the way, there was lots of discussions of this community voucher plan with group owners on our SimpleX network. But we then realized then the next logical step would be to announce the plan and to learn what people like and what people dislike, what people understand, and that plan evolve together with the community, like we always did product development from day one. So yeah, I see it as exceptionally healthy and helpful product of aligning what we do with our users community. And some people will be it's exceptionally, our privacy is exceptionally sensitive area, right? And people are scared about their providers doing something stupid or doing something that will undermine their security. And that's where all these emotional reactions come from. That's inevitable. So I don't think it's possible to avoid it. And some people genuinely have different philosophical view on the world. Maybe we can touch on that. So
yeah, let's back up for a minute. I want to make sure everybody, because I'm not sure I even fully understand what the whole voucher thing even is, right? So I use SimpleX. I'm a customer. I'm a user, right? And then we have it integrated into XMR Bazaar and whatnot. I love it. It works. It's very easy, user friendly. You know, it's as simple as Signal. I love the UX. I think it's great. Now, why should I even care about this new feature that you're looking to add? What is it?
Yeah.
How is it going to affect me as a user?
Correct. Yes. I think
the 101 on that.
Yes, 100%. I think we'll have to rewind a little bit to explain, before we explain what are these vouchers. I think it's important to understand why are they, right? Because, and I think however hard we try, it's highly innovative things, and it's hard to communicate about it, right? And we're not communication professionals, right? And we can't afford user group testing or PR experts or to make a polished communication on day one. We're not Apple, right? We're a tiny team, mostly engineers. We do as best. So I think, And this engagement with community doesn't just educate us about what's needed, but also how to communicate. So I think we need to rewind and talk about what problems we're solving that lead to this decision that we need this thing. Because otherwise, this whole kind of thing hangs in the air, and nobody understands what the hell we're trying to do and why. As you say, right? It's messenger it works.
Doug, please mute if you're not talking.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So okay, so what I came to, we've been building SimpleXChat for 4 years now. It's more than 4 years I'm working on it full time. We launched the first app in March 2022. And what I came to realize and to understand that Messenger is a commercially unsound and not viable category for a product to be sustainable. And that may sound controversial, but if you look around, you wouldn't see a single Messenger product that is commercially sustainable without betraying their users' interests, right? Signal depends on donations from various entities we don't fully understand. Like I love Signal. It's a solid product, and we learned a lot from this, and we use double-registered protocol, but Signal is struggling to make itself sustainable. Telegram is making itself sustainable by doing lots of shady stuff, right? Like by making product not usable unless you pay. I don't want to be in a business of shipping a shitty product in order to make people pay, right? And if you look at WhatsApp, they don't commercially profitable on their own, right? Even at the size of 2 billion users, right? They exist because they could have been commercially profitable if they stick with their plan. The early plan of WhatsApp was perfect. Everybody pays $1 a year, and it creates a profitable product, right? Because for Messenger, it's a very low cost operation. You can run yourself on $1 a year price. The problem is people don't want to pay $1 a year price anymore. Highly competitive market, etc. So what do we do about that, right? So we originally thought we're going to do similar thing to Telegram, but better. And then you realize that however hard you try, the line is between users who pay and users who don't pay. If you want to make any money out of this, and again, people talk about, oh, you're a business, you must be non-profit. Every single organization, well, Doug, you know that, right? If it wants to exist, has to make more money in than money coming out, right? Otherwise, you just die, right? Nobody's gonna, like, it doesn't matter what this money are, user donations, sponsorships, whatever. You have to get more money into your organization than comes out of your organization. That's called profit, right? By definition. Whether you pay tax on profit as a business or you are exempt from tax on profit as non-profit, you still need profit to exist. Otherwise, you die. And this whole idea of premium features for the users doesn't sit well with me at all, because in order to make business more successful, I have to make my users less successful, to give them shitty features that they don't want to pay for, and cripple free tier, etc. So that's what we see happening with Telegram, right? Oh, you can't message this user because you need a premium account. Come on, it's just a messenger, right? It exists for me to be able to message users, right? So yeah, and we didn't like it, right? So then we were thinking, and then in parallel, what we observed on SimpleX network is a very interesting emergence of public communities and groups, which initially took us by complete surprise. We were not ready technologically, and we're still not there yet. And the fact that people want to create and publish content in what was defined at the time as a private messenger was surprising. Even though SimpleX protocol was originally designed for publishing rather than for messaging, even though we kind of know that people want to engage with each other without saying who they are, right? Without necessarily disclosing their identities, like in a proper cypherpunk spirit, right? If you remember Manifesto, we want to selectively reveal ourselves to the world, right? So, and this kept us thinking, because this is very much what happens on the web, right? People publish content, and that's what happens with Telegram channels. And then what we've seen last year is several large Telegram communities, like think 10,000 people or 50,000 people, tried to migrate on SimpleX platform, right? It's not designed for that. It's not going to work like that. So obviously they failed. It doubled our user base overnight. Over several months, not overnight, of course, right? And they ultimately failed because they, like, small groups, like 100, 500 people, maybe 1,000 people can work. The bigger they get, the worse they work. And and yet they tried. So we could see a very strong demand for people to publish content in a messenger environment, like in Telegram channels, right, or like in Discord servers, and engage with their communities, and do it without surrendering control of that to technological platform they use, because we from day one see ourselves as technology provider and not as a platform, right? So we develop Messenger, you can use it. You don't like our servers, we're only happy it reduces our costs. You can use your servers as often or somebody else wrote, right? So, and many people use their own servers, and it's great, right? That's how open web is built. And then we said, okay, so but on the web, the traffic is very different. So a majority of the traffic on the web is generated by the large websites, right? Unlike with Messenger. With Messengers, we have very even traffic distribution, right? That's why it's hard to monetize. But with a content platform, the power law holds, right? Like about 80% of traffic, the Pareto law, right? They call it. So 80% of traffic will be generated by 20% of content providers, right? By 20% of channels. And the remaining 20% of traffic will be generated by 80% of people, right? And this is great, because what it means that we can charge this 20% money and keep the product completely free for everybody else, at least in theory. Our investors are behind this plan. I'm behind this. I'm obviously the main shareholder, and I believe that this is literally the only possible path that can make a messaging network and content network commercially sustainable if it is also a content network and it makes their largest channels and largest groups and largest communities pay money for server resources, and in this way subsidize the rest of the network. So yeah, that's the commercial model, and that's why we're talking. Okay, but how do they pay, right? People don't like the idea that okay, I create a channel. Let's say it publishes perfectly legal content, but let's say it criticizes some opinions that are popular in society at the time, right? So freedom of speech says what I'm doing is legal, but it doesn't mean I'm going to keep my job if I do it under my name, right? And we've seen a lot of people losing their jobs if they express unpopular opinions online, and so on and so forth, right? So that's a common notion that for freedom of speech to be real, you have to be able to express your opinions without revealing your identity. Even in this chart, right, we see lots of people being present under some invented names. You operate your business under your real name. You show your face, and that's fine, right? That you don't want to hide, and I don't want to hide either. I'm too old for that. So, but that nevertheless, it's just like life in fear is not life at all. So, at least that's how I see it. So yeah, so people want to be able to express their opinions without disclosing their identity. And that's very important for freedom of speech and democracy. And I think this is the notion that an absolute majority of people in the world would agree with, right? If the condition for you to being able to express your opinion is to present an idea, like some people in politics are trying to convince us, hopefully they won't be successful, right? But if you do it this way, like nobody wants to do it, right? I'd rather shut up and not express my opinion at all. Right, and that's what happens in countries that are totalitarian, right? So we wanted a mechanism for people to pay for servers in such a way that their identity cannot be linked to what they say online, right? It doesn't prevent our ability to moderate them, right? If we're hosting this content, we can read it as well. It's public. We can moderate it. We can ensure that this content is legal. It doesn't distribute a long list of content that is like undesirable in public space, right? And we can do it. But there is no reason to prohibit. There is no legislative reason. There is no business reason. There is no real reason to require people to present their idea if they want to say something online. It's very important they can participate in communities privately. It's very important that they can publish certain opinions privately. And we wanted to think about a payment mechanism for server resources that would be legal. That's important if you operate a business, and technically viable and acceptable for all users, right? And they looked like, when you try to do innovation, you usually look at history, right? You look at existing solutions, you look at existing regulations, and you look at similar kind of things that exist in society that achieve something similar, but in a different technology and different space, right? And the thing that community vouchers are the closest to is prepaid telephone card. there is a separate regulation for it. You can buy it in shop for cash, right? And you can use it with phone, and you can make phone calls without revealing your identity, right? And we want technology that will be regulated in a similar way. And it cannot be cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency is seen as financial instrument. It's seen as money effectively, right? And if we put ourselves in a way of money being passed from our users to network operators, we don't want to be a network operator. The fact that we provide servers is a very temporary stage. We will stop doing it within, if not 12, then 24 months, right? We don't want to run servers. We want to develop the network and let people do that. But doing that with cryptocurrencies as a payment instrument puts us in effectively a money transmitting business, unfortunately. And we don't want to operate money transmitting business. It's a complex licensing. It's KYC requirements. It's.
I guess this is. So I'm not sure I totally then understand. So what you're proposing instead of people, making these purchases with Monero, they're effectively using this token that you're creating. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. It's
so how is that then not labeling you as a money like? Wouldn't that be labeled?
It depends on how we do it. There is a separate regulation for gift cards. For example, you should think about the fact that you can walk into the store and purchase a gift card, right? It's not a financial instrument. It can be used in a very prescribed way, right? The important thing about money is that it doesn't tell you how to use it, right? You can store it as a value, you can give it to people, you can transfer it an unlimited number of times. But if you walk into the store and purchase a gift card of iTunes, for example, I don't know, any example, right? You can only buy music on iTunes. You can't do anything else with this. And it will expire in 12 months if you don't use it. We want a cryptographic equivalent of this, a thing that gives you ability to pay for a server capacity and nothing else. And if you don't use it within 12 months of purchase, it will lose its value completely.
But how are people initially purchasing this token though?
We don't know. It's a variety of things. We want to be able to accept Monero for them, of course. We want to be able to accept Bitcoin. We want to be able to accept in-app payments, because most people in the world do not use cryptocurrency. It may come as a surprise to the Monero community, but reality is that in the world, adoption of cryptocurrency is around 10%, right? In the United States, it's slightly over 20%. Same situation in the UK. And we know for a fact that about half of our users in any group do not use cryptocurrencies. They don't want to use cryptocurrencies. They want to use communication technology rather than cryptocurrencies. And we want those people to be able to pay without being exposed to cryptocurrency in any way, without having a wallet, without owning cryptocurrency, without accepting cryptocurrency risks. We are not cryptocurrency business, and we don't want to be one. We are in the communication business, right? We want to be able to run a sustainable business and enable other people to run servers sustainably without being in a cryptocurrency business.
There was one thing you said that I didn't fully understand. You said that so paying for servers with crypto would make you a money service business?
That's a quite possible view that many regulators hold, and it's hard to challenge. And we've just seen what happened with Samurai wallet developers this week, right? Even though they were in software development business as they saw it, because the software was used for money transmitting, they were kind of declared to be in a money transmitting business. It's a very kind of complex area of regulation. I just want to be part of this area of regulation.
But in this scenario, you're just selling something, though, right? So you're saying people that sell things and accept Monero could be.
We're not selling our servers. We don't want to sell our servers. We want to be able to effectively facilitate payments for servers operated by third parties through the app that we run. And if we use cryptocurrency as a payment mechanism between users and those servers, the probability of us doing this being classified as money transmitting business is very high. It's not 100%, but the legal practice is that cryptocurrencies have complex regulations around them. Exchanges have very complex set of KYC requirements, and we would be at risk of effectively needing to do like much more compliance and regulatory burden. It's very different, Doug, than with you accepting Monero for your products and services. You sell your own products and services, right? You are not in the business of facilitating transactions between one side and another side. It's a very different business. As a business, I can sell my own services or products.
Right. I mean, XMR Bazaar obviously, walks that line, right? And
yes,
I'm of the belief that is, as far as I'm concerned, in the United States of America, it's perfectly legal to provide a platform that connects peers that then, enter into commerce directly, right? As long as it's for legal goods and services, right? So there's no money transmission. So couldn't this be similar in that regard? So you're connecting the customer to,
I think we're trying to. I think we're trying to simply have a more widely applicable technology than people who use cryptocurrencies.
Right.
And we don't want to look. Monero community was super helpful to our growth, and we want Monero community to be happy with the product and continue using it. And same goes for Bitcoin users, and same goes for all cryptocurrency users. But we have to understand one thing, right? For communication network to be successful, it has to be usable by all people, right? You cannot say, if you say that in order to use this...
No, I totally agree with you. It can't be that people have to go obtain Monero to use your messenger, right?
It's severely limited.
That's not fair. It's just not going to work, right? Like if you want to succeed, you have to make business decisions that are going to allow that type of business model to succeed. And like you said, there's really only so many ways for you to do it.
Correct.
And I mean, what I'm hearing from you is that you will be able to buy these vouchers with Monero, right? Obviously,
that's absolutely one.
Other crypto, right? Yeah,
100%. And initially, because we're going to use some of the existing blockchains for developing those. So there are also, by the way, there are also technical considerations, right? Such as performance and how cryptography works. Cryptocurrency, general purpose cryptocurrency is a much more complex object than vouchers, and we can do, because the whole life cycle of a voucher, it gets issued and it gets burned. That's end of story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
I do think though, I do want to say though, because with you, the point you're making with you don't want to be labeled money trap, and I totally get, I don't think it's good messaging to put out there though. I think that's where you're getting some of the pushback, because as cypherpunks, as crypto anarchists, as those, we don't want to frame ourselves as doing something illegal when they're not even calling it illegal, right? It's like we're losing ground by saying, this might be labeled that, like, no, fuck them. It's not. It's perfectly legal for people to, run a business where you connect peers together and then they're entering into commerce peer to peer. Whether or not they're using Monero or some other cryptocurrency. I think that's where you're getting the pushback is we don't want to see that ground. And kind of self-frame ourselves as, if you use Monero, you could be labeled a money transmitter.
It wasn't specifically about Monero, and it wasn't specifically about, it was the general view on cryptocurrencies. And I think different regulations would apply depending on the country. And the United States has, at the moment, the most lenient view on cryptocurrencies, and it's not consistent with the view in Europe, and it's not consistent in the view in the United Kingdom. And the United States is a super important market for us, but it's less than 20% of our users as well, right? If you look at the distribution of downloads in app stores, it's under 20%. It's one of the highest markets for us, but still it's under 20%. So we cannot develop technology that would comply purely with the United States regulations and would not comply with European or United Kingdom regulations. Obviously, we're not going to worry about regulation that exists in some totalitarian countries. We cannot comply. We cannot develop something that would make all regulators around the world, right, happy. It's impossible, right? But we can, and I believe we should operate within the lawful boundaries. We can talk about that. By the way, it's a very interesting subject, and I think that also created a whole kind of polarization. And to me, it exposed a split in privacy community. Is about like to what like anarchists versus complying with the law, right? And what I learned from this kind of engagement, that people don't understand what cyberpunk movement was about and why they succeeded. I can share my view on that. And people don't understand what the law is. And I don't have legal education, but I have a lot of knowledge about how law works. And like people seem to equate that authorities and statutes and laws, it's all one thing, right? And effectively complying with the law is about doing what somebody stronger than you tells you to do. This is not that, right? For example, I can see that across privacy advocates and cypherpunks exists the belief that Phil Zimmermann, who published PGP software in 90s, broke the law. But that's just untrue. That's not what he did. That's not what he believed he did. And that's not what happened. So what he did was lawful, and the court confirmed this, right? And reality is that I see crypto wars that were happening in 90s as probably one of the most important things for our privacy, for our ability to use cryptography legally. And at the time, if you look at 90s, right, there was the same split, right? There was a large part, maybe a small part, I don't know how large. It was some part of cypherpunk movement that believed, fuck the law, sorry, my French, right? Let's just break all the regulations and do what we want, and state will not be able to contain it. That was some people who were expressing those views. But I think we are lucky that there was some other part of the cypherpunk movement who did both defensive, like Phil Zimmermann, right? Phil Zimmermann was very legal simply because his view was very simple, right? There is a Bill of Rights, and it grants us the right to privacy. And then there is this cryptography expert regulation statute that restricts our Bill of Rights. And Constitution is the law of the land, has much higher priority than this stupid cryptography expert regulation law. So by doing what Constitution allows us, we're not breaking law. Even this particular status tells us that we do. That was his view. This is a lawful view. There is a precedent in 19th century from some court that says that any law that's repugnant to the Constitution, it uses exactly that word, is in itself unlawful and should be ignored. So, and he has proven this in court. And the view that was later developed in the same series of court cases was that the software code is free speech, and therefore any attempt to restrict distribution of software code is a restriction of the First Amendment rights, and therefore illegal, right? There was Phil Karn, there was somebody else, there was Peter Junger, who they did preemptive cases. They went to court without being challenged, because their actions were restricted. And ultimately, there was a landmark case of Daniel Bernstein, right, to whom we owe all the cryptography we use today, that resulted in cryptography expert regulations being lifted, right? So it feels like privacy community has believed that this happened because people ignored law, but it's not the case. Crypto wars happened and were won in courts by the people who believed that law has priority.
There definitely is a contingent of people out there on Twitter that seem to be, they're advocating the, flout the law, forget the law, to, just build around it and, let the chips fall where they may. Yeah. I really like, I'm still not entirely clear on the specifics of Simplex. So like you guys, you need to accept money for, there's sort of two things that I don't understand. One is that you need to accept money to provide something. And then exactly what the intention is to be provided is I'm not clear on. So first of all, with the part of accepting money, there's the Monero portion of it, or Monero, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or US dollars or euros or whatever it is you're operating in. I understand that there's a need to accept many different forms of payment. That's a very common thing across all businesses. Hey, we need to be able to take, MasterCard, Venmo, there's so many different ways to pay, and that's like a business integration thing. Like, okay, we just need to set up our infrastructure to receive all these different types of payments and handle them and translate them to the things that you need to pay your bills. So there's that. So I'm not understanding exactly like why doing that necessarily makes you a money services business, which leads into the what is it that is being provided. It sounds like you're a conduit then to pay for servers, some other like infrastructure, like you're not providing the servers yourself and you guys are trying to get away from providing servers. Can you really break that down in a way? Because I feel like I'm still pretty confused. I don't understand what it is that you guys intend to provide as a service. Like, are you directly providing servers? Are you paying server providers and then running software on those servers on behalf of other people? And how exactly does that connect to being a money service business? Because I can pay for any server right now with Monero, or not any server, but there's like, you can pay for certain servers with Monero, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and those are not money service businesses, right? You're just it's a form of payment. So can you elaborate on that for the audience to help us understand that, and for me so I can understand that?
Sure, yes. Currently, if you install the app, you will be using, like the app allows you to use any servers, your own servers, right? And that will 100% remain the case. But most people don't want to do it, right? I think there is a great post by Moxie about that people do not want to host their own servers, right? And there is no way we can create a decentralized network if it involves the requirement to run their own service. So somebody else will run the servers for you, right? Also, with the network, when which tries to provide you security and privacy, if you run your own service, it's always a trade-off, right? You get more control of this server, and you know what happens with this server. But if it's only your traffic and traffic of your friends, this traffic stands out, right? There's safety in numbers always. Privacy to be and security to be possible, you need large network. So we are building step by step a network of multiple operators, same as on the web, right? So we don't want one or two operators to run the servers, as is the case today, because it simply cannot provide users the security. We want network operators to be effectively commoditized, redundant, disposable, when you don't have to choose which servers to use, and yet you're using tens or maybe even hundreds of different servers that exist on network. So that's ultimately the goal. And that creates lots of challenges, right? How do you let people know about those servers? How they discover them? How the service will be paid, etc., etc., etc. So that's ultimately the goal. We want to build a network when people can use multiple servers without explicitly choosing those servers.
So if I understood that correctly, I'm going to have to infer a little bit here, but the goal is to create an entire network. So maybe not a blockchain per se, but a decentralized network, a somewhat decentralized network of people running server infrastructure for Simplex. And your role in that, for receiving the money that you're receiving, you're effectively going to be distributing that to these operators in some form or fashion. And it's the fact that you'll be the conduit of which that money flows to the network operators that you're concerned would make you a money service, an MSB.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Exactly
And
right.
then so, but if you the theory then is, the legal theory would be that if you translate all that into vouchers, that effectively you now fall under the voucher gift card. So you can receive basically any type of payment for your vouchers. And then those vouchers, I assume, are just directly redeemable by the server operators for just regular currency.
Correct. It's not just a theory. There is lots of legal precedent that would confirm this theory, right? You can walk into a supermarket, they're not money services business, right? And you can buy gift cards, or you can buy telephone cards. So there is lots of similar legal precedent. And while we know that we'll need to do more legal research and setting up the separation to make sure it's compliant with and it's consistent with the requirements. The preliminary consultations that we had confirmed that view, right? So we can build a business that uses something that is similar to gift cards as a payment mechanism, and by selling those gift cards, we're not becoming a money transmitting business.
So how does the server operator redeem those gift cards, those vouchers?
That's why we need smart contract enabled blockchain. So effectively, the sale of this gift card will be resulting in the funds being locked in a smart contract. However, like So some other kind of tokens. For example, if you choose to develop an Ethereum network, which is again not a hard choice, then it may be USDT token or some other stable coin linked token, right? And the smart contract can lock those funds, and when the users decide to use this voucher, then those funds can be automatically distributed between operator and the network. When I say network, I mean us as the company that develops the software, several nonprofits that were established, and we already established SimpleXChat Foundation in the Delaware state, etc. So whatever regulator that exists on the network. So because we cannot develop software for free as well, right? We need to make our operation sustainable as well. You cannot build multi-operator network without somebody building actually the network, right? So there are two businesses here: developing the network, which is we see as our business, developing software for the network, which we also see as our business, and running servers for the network that we don't see as our business. But we need to organize relationships between the parties here. One of the parties being the users of the network, another party being ourselves, and another party being people who run the servers or companies that run the servers. And we want to do it all without being in financial services business.
I see. So the service providers themselves, or the server operators themselves, they would effectively be paid in these vouchers, and then they could convert those vouchers into whatever they could swap them for on chain.
Yeah, whatever funds that are locked in smart contract, and a share of this voucher payment will be allocated to the operator, and share of this voucher payment will be allocated to the network, however we define it. So that's work in progress. That's not fixed and so on. We still didn't fully establish governance model for the network. That's something that would probably require what cryptocurrency blockchain calls training wheels, right? So we are aiming to build a decentralized network that's not controlled or owned by any company. But to get from where we are to building this network, it's a process, right? We don't know how it should work. We don't know how it should operate. It's much harder than to build decentralized. Even with Ethereum, right? Like with Ethereum networks, they have stages of decentralization, right? And they consider stage 2 decentralization for level 2 networks if there is nobody running, there is no multi-sig, nothing. Like literally, there is smart contract, effectively a distributed autonomous DAO organization, right? That runs everything that should be, but you can't get there on day one even with something that's as well defined as cryptocurrency blockchain. And messaging and contact network, it's not well defined, right? Nobody knows how it should work yet. It's a discovery process. We don't know which features should exist. We don't know. So, yeah.
We have a question from Nihilist in the XMR chat. He tipped, let's see, I guess that's 1.23 Moneros. So he says, I need to go. I will watch the rest later, but a question for Evgeny. As a third-party Simplex server operator, what will be the way for me to monetize the server? Say I have 10,000 users with only Monero to pay for service. What will they need to do exactly?
We're not at a stage to have the process, but at a high level, the server will have to join the network, accept the terms of operation and conditions and privacy policy to the end users. And based on that, based on the trust level, based on the reliability metrics, the share of the revenue will be determined. So we wouldn't have fixed shares for server operators. We would have a share that's highly dependent on trust level and reliability. But generally, the short answer to this question, to join this network and to make the service available to the network, and it will just happen automatically because part of the users of the network, via random choices of which servers to use, will be using these servers as well. That's the goal.
We have another XMR chat. Zlepmis tipped 0.123 Millinero. He asked, why is Simplex written in Haskell? Why not a more common language?
It's I think it's almost off topic here. We've had a lot of discussions, but long story short, it just happened, right? I don't think it could have been written or happen in any other language. And by the time we decided to make it a full-time project, we already had a function and prototype written in Haskell. And if we have decided to rewrite it, then this wouldn't have existed, right? So as they say, the best language is the one you have the most code written in. It's written in, right? So any rewrite usually, like, remember Netscape, right? They also did the rewrite and they died. So many businesses software. So overall, Haskell is a very exceptionally efficient language when you want to express complex ideas, complex abstractions. We have a lot of business logic expressed in Haskell types. It's almost like way too technical for the audience, I think, but nevertheless, right? We effectively can express business rules, user experience rules in code in Haskell, even though user interface is not written in Haskell. So it allows you to define business level invariants, sort of to say, right? In very abstraction level of the code. So it has some dark corners that make it inefficient. It's hard to deploy on mobile platforms. We made good help to achieve that. But again, by the time we decided that it's not a hobby, because it started as a hobby, right? Nobody believed it will ever be something real when we started developing this thing, right? And then we saw lots of interest, and then we saw people donating something. So by the time we decided to make it something real, we had tens of thousands of lines of code written in Haskell, functioning prototype, lots of things. We considered to rewrite, but it would certainly kill this.
So what's if you don't mind me asking, what jurisdiction are you guys operating out of? I assume you're a for-profit organization. It sounds like you have shares, and so I guess you're a European organization. So you guys accept Monero as a donation currently, but Monero is delisted pretty much from all the EU platforms. So how do you guys work around that? And could you go into that?
We don't have to. We're not exchange. We don't sell. Exchanges, they sell and buy Monero. They let you sell and buy Monero. We don't have to. In the same way as there is nothing illegal in accepting Monero in Europe or in the United Kingdom. I don't see any lawful obstacles to accepting Monero to yourself. So yes, we do accept Monero donations. There wasn't the huge number, but nevertheless, right? We do accept Monero donations. And there is nothing that would prevent us from doing that in the law. I don't see any obstacles there.
Okay.
So, but to answer your question, right? We are registered in the United Kingdom. I live in London, so that's one of the many reasons. I think, as everything, there are pros and cons in the United Kingdom legislation. I think that the mass media coverage doesn't really appreciate the pros and focused on cons, but some cons exist in every single country. There is no jurisdiction that's ideal today, right? There are always some downsides.
So one thing that's just an idea, maybe useful or not, if it was transparent to me as I'm using Simplex, that here's your donation address for XMR, I would totally send you guys money and be like, hey, I know y'all are running server infrastructure that I use. So here's a little bit of Monero. Wikipedia has, and I know they're a nonprofit, but Wikipedia has kind of a model where they do something similar, where they, once a year they have this drive, say, hey, we need money to continue running. Here's, please donate if you can, if you find us useful. Would that be something, just hypothetically, that y'all could do to take in money? Maybe that's not a good business model, but
we advertise our donation address on GitHub. We have, I think, somewhere on the website we have the link. We don't until the website update. We advertise it quite prominently. There was a button in the top right corner, and we did receive some donations, and they helped a lot. But I think overall they maybe covered like 15% of the combined cost to date.
You would get a lot more if you had that inside of your app, because a lot of people just download it from the App Store.
But the problem, we actually have a link, but the problem is that you cannot distribute on App Store and on Play Store and accept donations. That's kind of a contradiction to their policy, and we would have to have effectively two different apps like it obviously wouldn't double our development cost, but nevertheless, right? Like we'll have to distribute this up on Google, on Play Store, and if you compare downloads at Google, we recently hit 500,000 downloads on Google Play Store, and on F-Droid, I think we may have had like 100,000 at best. I don't know. They only recently started publishing download statistics. So until quite recently, there was no download statistics on F-Droid. So it's kind of just being pragmatic and not pushing it to people's faces. Also, look, you know what? I spoke with community, and many people see this kind of pushing donators thing into their face as the reason not to use. I don't know. Look. I do not believe in the nations model as being viable long term. So we super grateful to everybody who donates to us. We accept donations, but I don't think we should build product around the donation model. We should figure out.
You're right. That's not a
better,
viable
right?
business model.
Exactly. Signal is struggling, right? Signal says donate to us, and they don't even cover, I don't think they cover even 5% of costs from user donations, right? That's the whole challenge of being a messenger. So over years, as I said in the beginning, I arrived to the conclusion that messaging must be a feature, not a product. Then you can build a successful, viable, sustainable product.
All right. Evgeny, I don't know if you mind. It looks like Ofrin has some questions he wants to ask too. I mean, I know you've already given us a lot of your time, but if you don't mind.
I have, Doug, I have unlimited time for you. You can torture me as much as you like. I would be happy to share my thoughts on privacy, cypherpunk, Monero, whatever you like. And I'm obviously happy to answer questions.
Okay. Ofrin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just need to gather my thoughts.
All right, man. Yeah, I know you had some questions. Obviously, please, please be kind. Please be a gentleman, as you always are.
Well, it's not that I had some questions. EP wanted to have a little bit of a debate because he disagreed with what I had to say on the last show.
Okay.
So,
I think often most of the things you said I commented on, and I think most of criticism comes from misunderstanding of what we're trying to do. I think we all exist in different bubbles, right? And we have very engaged communities of users on SimpleX platform who understand what we're doing, and apparently Twitter audience or X audience, they're much less aware of what we're trying to do. For example, like even Bawdy just realized that we're trying to build multi-operator network rather than to be a provider of some service, right? So we really not see it like we can't create yet one more centralized platform. There's no point doing it. We know where it leads. It inevitably leads to abuse of the users, right? It's just I don't see how it's viable. We want to build. We effectively want to evolve what a web is as a centralized network that nobody controls or owns, that is as open as possible, where people can share content, exchange messages, effectively continue evolution of the open web standards to the messaging space, right? We could have started from the browser, but the browser seems like completely lost in its evolution. The web platform almost is not evolving. So when we say web, we mean more like a spirit rather than web technology. So we started from a completely different corner, which is messaging. But fundamentally, it's the same. We want to build an open network when people can run servers. And the whole idea of micropayments for servers is not new. You know that it was Tim Berners-Lee vision for the web, right? Create micropayments, make people pay for content, make people pay for servers, right? So effectively, we want to have, even though in V1, Doug, we don't want people to pay for content, we absolutely have those because it's more complex regulation. It goes more like in-game currencies and things like that. We absolutely want to eventually convert those vouchers into a thing that would allow people to pay for content, to do what you do in XMR chat with Monero, but in a more in a way that's applicable to a wider range of people. So it's not locking people into a particular ecosystem of payments, right? So any payments can be used to fund it, and then you can pay for content. You can pay because like I don't know what you do with your free time. I like watching movies. When I was younger, I played lots of computer games, right? I spent over $100 in Cypherpunk to my shame, right? 77, right? So I do not want people who produce this content to know which content I consume. I don't believe that they need to know this, right? I don't want Amazon to know which books I read. I don't want Amazon to know which movies I watch. I really don't want it, because this knowledge tells them who I am. It gives them power in manipulating me into making purchases I don't want, right? You know how it happens. You search for something on Amazon, and then the whole Google and the whole internet starts showing you ads related to your search, right? I find this like deplorable beyond any measure. I really want to have an internet when my private choices remain my private choices, right? And it's not about hiding. It's not about secrecy, as Eric Hughes wrote in Cypherpunk Manifesto. This is about my selectiveness to whom I want to reveal myself, right?
I have a question.
Go on, of course. Sorry.
If I'm a person in a country and I need to get paid in Monero,
right.
Will I be able to redeem my portion of the income from these vouchers in Monero so that I can get paid in a currency that my government cannot seize from me?
That's a great question. I didn't think that far. I think initially we obviously need to choose some blockchain to develop on, and like the starting point of the payment would be whatever funds that this smart contract can lock, right? Although we've said we will be developing on like Ethereum/EVM network, but even Ethereum doesn't necessarily mean EVM. There are other networks, for example, Starknet, which is interesting because Starknet is developing integration with Bitcoin. I think the Monero community should campaign Starknet to develop integration with Monero. That would be exciting, right? Because I think the power of blockchain is in bridges and ability to integrate things, right? So we need to choose, like in software programming, right? People say which language, but fundamentally the lingua franca for computer programming remains language C, right? Every single integration between different languages happens via the C layer. So we kind of want this layer of payment for utility, which is not money, and that would be this kind of lingua franca for payment for utility, right? And can you redeem this into Monero in day one? 100% not, because that's not exactly the blockchain that, like, we cannot develop smart contracts directly on Monero. If we could, that would be a viable consideration. But we absolutely don't. I absolutely don't see a problem why there can be not a breach or some sort of atomic swap on the boundary of some blockchain that allows swapping to Monero, right? And as this functionality gets more adopted, we'll obviously be considering those choices and developing those choices, right? So I really think that the idea just came to me. I really think that you guys should talk to Starknet, because if like same things that Starknet wants to do with Bitcoin, I think they can do for Monero blockchain as well. I don't see the reason. And actually, Starknet seems to be going quite heavy on privacy, so it may be a good fit. So yeah, do what you will with this kind of idea. So yeah, so the honest answer is I don't know, right? Like, people were asking me how this will work. I don't know yet. We kind of know what users want. When we develop technology, when we design technology, we're trying to connect what's technically possible with what's desirable for the users, and also without breaking the laws. These are three constraints that lead all the design considerations that we do, right? It's a hard problem to solve, right? Because users but nevertheless, so far we were able to connect these three contradictory things into a single point. And of course, if users want to be able to use Monero, we will be working really hard to find a way to use Monero. Right, but how it will work, I think we're not at the point to say how it will work. We're really in the very beginning of this journey. So I hope so. To answer your question in short, I hope so. I hope that you will be able to take Monero.
How will somebody that's paying in fiat dollars obtain a voucher?
We hope to be able to have this technology approved with some payment processors and be able to effectively accept in-app payments and credit card payments, exactly because it's a legal equivalent of a telephone card. We cannot promise that it's possible, but preliminary analysis is that it's likely to be possible, but it would be a hard work to get approved by payment processors.
But I mean, like, say I paid $10 with an in-app payment. that went to go through a processor to purchase a voucher, how would the so the voucher, how does the fiat convert to the voucher? Because the person that gets the voucher has to be able to redeem that back into cryptocurrency, right?
We'll effectively have to use some payment processor for this part of the technology to convert, to hold the money and to release the money. And how would a server operator will be able to release the money would depend on how we integrate with payment processors. We certainly don't see acceptance fiat payments as #1 priority for V1. It's complex. It's complex area of regulation. It's complex integration. But what we know, if we start from the right foundation, then we can get there, right? And having an independent voucher, which is like a gift card or like a prepaid utility card, seems like the right foundation that eventually will get us to being able to accept money and to pay people money. While if we start from cryptocurrency, then it will be in a very different area of regulation, and we're at risk of locking ourselves into this cryptocurrency regulations.
Well, there's services like Proxy Store that allow you to buy, for example, a Tutanota or a Proton Mail gift card. Mm-hmm. And essentially a similar thing. Wouldn't Simplex be able to do something like that? Just get Proxy Store to be the payment process?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. I'm not sure I understood it correctly. I would like, if you could send me the link, I would appreciate. But I think yes, I think so. I think we're talking about something similar here. We want community vouchers to be more, how to say, fluid, right? You pay for something, so it's not exactly a gift card. It's kind of a resource that you use. So closer to prepaid telephone card that has a balance that can be redeemed, etc. So more like a telephone prepaid card than a fixed gift card.
I can see how this all would be really tricky because, on the one hand, the comparison to a telephone card is very apt, right? That's a really good comparison. On the other hand, I could see certain lawyers, certain regulators arguing that there's a lot of overlap with the cryptocurrency NFT aspects of it, especially since it's happening on top of a blockchain, and because it has some kind of tradable value on the open market. They might try to then make that comparison.
Oh, no, you don't get it. We intend to make sure that vouchers do not have tradable value, that you explicitly cannot sell them. You can buy them.
Interesting.
Yes, that's exactly the design goal. Please read the page that we have on the website with lots of questions. The design goal is you can buy it. You can use them to pay for the servers. If you don't use them, they burn. End of story. You cannot sell them.
They're not transferable.
We may allow limited transferability. For example, that users, we didn't decide yet how we organize community donations, because very important design objective is that community members can donate those vouchers to community so that community can cover their costs, right? That's a very common relationship between communities and their members, because some communities are run by businesses and they just cover their costs, so it's irrelevant. But some communities are member sponsored, right? So there should be a mechanism so that members can pay for their communities. So, but telephone card allows some transferability. You can buy the telephone card for cash and give it to another person. There is no exact, there are other limits and restrictions. And one of the important qualities of telephone card that it cannot be used in any other way. So kind of, you can give it to anybody else, but they still can only buy phones for that. They cannot use it on the marketplace. The line in the regulatory environment is between a specific utility and the marketplace, because if you can use it in the marketplace, it becomes money. If you can use it only to buy a specific utility, then it's a prepaid utility card. That's where the line happens, right? Whether it's a marketplace or if it's like a specific thing. And server infrastructure capacity is very specific thing, right? So the fact that you can even if you can have some limited ability to transfer it, maybe it'll allow 1 or 2 transfers. We don't know yet. So that's the document says that. So it still doesn't make it the same as freely tradable token. And you also can't use it as a store of value indefinitely, because you have to use it within a certain period from purchase. And if you do, it will just burn.
Interesting. So yeah, because that's, if you don't put some kind of limitation on how many times it can be transferred, then hypothetically on top of a blockchain, as an NFT smart quote unquote NFT, as a smart contract, you know, that'll be easy for someone to just plug into Uniswap or to plug in these vouchers, you know. So you'd have to like put some kind of limitation mechanism there that like explicitly prevents it from being able to be traded like that.
Look, I think we confuse lots of people with the word NFT on the website. We don't. It's not going to be NFT. NFT was a little experiment that we plan to use as access pass to test version, right? So there will be test version when you can get those vouchers for free, experiment with them, like some exchange will happen. So when like long before the commercial version is launched, right? So because we have to develop the technology, we have to stabilize it, we have to stabilize smart contracts. Some of the contracts may be upgradable, some of the contracts will be immutable, right? So there is a journey between like conceptualizing this technology. We're not even there yet, 100%, we're in the beginning, and actually launching this technology. So there will be some period when there will be a test version. So we use this NFT to effectively gauge some experiment. I think close to 100 people or maybe 80 people took this NFT, and the only purpose this NFT, little toy that we created, that was literally my like weekend like vibe codes and experiment, you can call it like that, right? Let's make NFT, see what happens, right? So yeah, so we're not going to use NFTs because NFTs are inefficient for vouchers. We're going to use very different cryptography for actually vouchers. So the only purpose to release this NFT was to give people to explore the interest, to see what community thinks about that, and we learned a lot through this couple of weeks, and also to give people access to test version if they get this NFT. We don't get any money from this NFT. Obviously, people will have to pay for gas something, but it's like if you choose low settings on gas, it's like 10 cents maybe, whatever. So it's not consequential for most people.
Are you concerned at all about the fact, so releasing a voucher like this on a transparent chain and the consequences that might have for the people that purchase the vouchers, and whether or not at some point in the future that might obligate you guys or associated companies or parties to engage with chain analysis to track the vouchers? It's kind of one of those things, like a lot of times the regulators will say, if you can track this, then you have to track it. You know what I mean? Like, is that a concern at all for you guys?
Not really, because the explicit design goal for voucher is that it's impossible to link voucher purchase with voucher usage, and it's achieved in a very simple way. It's emitted to the owner, and then you prove that you possess a voucher via zero-knowledge proofs, which actually Ethereum is in the process of rolling out, and many other blockchains support as well. I don't know if you understand the concept. Do you know the concept of zero-knowledge proof?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're here on Monero, right? So we all understand Tornado Cash. We understand
exactly.
No.
That's a different thing. No, so this is not dissimilar to full chain proofs that Monero is planning. So effectively, like, people will not be transferring those vouchers. They will be presenting a proof that they possess it. The nullifier will be recorded. And because they all expire, it makes it all very efficient, because you have to have all the vouchers ever emitted, right? If they expire after 12 months, then you only care about vouchers created the last 12 months and about nullifiers from the last 12 months, right? But the proof itself that you possess this voucher is presented as a zero-knowledge proof.
That's really good.
So that's exactly the objective, and that's exactly possible with things like credit cards or telephone cards, and that becomes a more complex area of the law for cryptocurrencies, right? That's exactly the challenge that Monero has to navigate with like European versus US regulatory environments, right? We just don't want to be in this business. We want to have very straightforward regulation, so we can look. You're asking, are you afraid that regulators may challenge you? We will obviously talk and present our own challenges, present our own legal analysis of what we do. And if we cannot agree with whoever that what we do is legal, then there are courts to discuss those issues and to decide what's legal, what's not, right? That's how all businesses operate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really trying not to ask the generic question, is something legal? Are you worried the regulators will challenge you? It was more specifically like, do you think they could challenge you in this form or fashion? And it sounds like, just to sort of restate what you said, it sounds like when you guys issue the voucher, so someone will purchase a voucher in one of the forms of payment that you guys accept through your payment processors, and then you'll issue a voucher. But once that voucher is issued and possessed by the counterparty, it's in a zero knowledge pool that you as a company can't see where it goes or how it's used.
Correct. Yes, there is a specific section in FAQ which says how is it possible to develop private things on public blockchain, and like in a nutshell, my answer is very simple. In the same way as you can develop private communication on public network via using unique addresses, so we're not going to issue to even if the same user buys multiple vouchers via the app, every time they'll use different address on the blockchain. It's not like they will be putting those vouchers into the wallet with the same address, and anybody can track how many vouchers a given address purchased. We don't want it. It's not required. It's only damaging. So what will happen is every time you buy a voucher, it's assigned to a new key, effectively.
Man,
but it's kind of similar to how we design SimpleX network, right? So like every connection is independent, and you know which connections are yours. Servers don't know which connections are yours, and this design protects user security, right? Because like if everybody knows what you do online, it's not about hiding things. You become a target to criminals. You become a target for abuse, exploitation, and lots of other like I think. Look, but you understand, I can continue on the philosophical aspects of privacy and why internet made it so difficult and what we're trying to do about it. But I think you understand them.
Yeah, we're all on board with the philosophic aspects. I'm really glad you came on, actually, because the technical, what you guys are doing is actually quite interesting, and it's a lot more than just like, oh, we need to take money to support servers. There's actually a lot more depth to what's happening there. And I think it wasn't entirely apparent on Twitter initially.
100%.
There was a little bit of a, the implication that Monero is illegal. I think that's what kind of set off the hornet's nest.
No, I didn't.
I'm actually going to make a big post summarizing everything that you've talked about here, because this is really interesting, and I don't want the community to get carried away with a misunderstanding.
The verbatim comment was that money can't be private legally. And that was the biggest thing I took issue with.
I think
because money can be private legally. There's no laws against private money. Money is private by default. And the insinuation that it can't be private legally is basically saying that Monero is illegal. So that's why we can't use it. And I'm like, that's like, nobody was talking about what's going to go on with the vouchers or post beyond the vouchers. And I never was trying to insinuate that Simplex themselves was going to run the servers, and that we were paying Simplex Monero to run servers for us, because we know it's supposed to be a distributed network where the people getting paid are getting paid in the vouchers. The issue was that when the topic of accepting Monero came up, the response was, we can't because it's illegal.
I think it was misconstrued largely and taken out of context, and I absolutely didn't mean that accepting Monero is against regulations in all contexts. I was obviously talking about our specific context, our specific use case, our specific objectives, and when I said something like this would fail a regulatory test, I only meant our operation, of course. Why would I? So we are accepting Monero donation. Come on, right? Like if it was illegal, we wouldn't be doing that. So, but again, we're trying to make a more general purpose privacy layer for utility purchases, right? And that's legal. And doing it with any cryptocurrency, it doesn't matter Monero or anything else, creates challenges, right? Regulatory challenges. And we just want to have simple life, create value for users, do what's possible to defend with regulators. Because I don't know, I think I agree with members of community that if you do innovation and you get large enough, regulators will not be happy however you do it, right? If you look at history of innovation, every single innovation resulted in a series of court cases against this innovation, right? Composers were suing people who were printing musical notes as like violating their copyrights. You know that story, right? And then like et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It started long before internet or computers, right? Every single innovation creates legal challenges, but you have to. And there are two ways, right? You just do it and see what happens, or you at least try to like minimize the risks and design around existing precedents. And I think for what we want to do, prepaid telephone cards is a great precedent. And if we design something similar, then they're more likely to defend the view that the innovation we're doing is exactly that, just in a different form.
But that was my basically my comment about Monero in the group chat. And basically you were saying that the way Monero positions itself is dangerous, and it's against what we're trying to work for.
Yes,
so I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, I can comment on that. Yeah, I absolutely. I think Monero, as many communities like related to privacy, is very much split to two parts, and a substantial part of Monero community have like anarchist view on society. Same as cypherpunk early days, right? There was a part that had very anarchist view. You can read Tim May's manifesto. And we see the same with Monero community. And I'm not in that part. That's as simple as that. I believe and this view is like broadly classified as like regulatory denial, right? So the whole kind of view that screw the regulation, let's do what we want, and we're not gonna care about what law or regulator think about that. I think it's dangerous to privacy. I think it's dangerous to Monero as well, because if you get out of privacy bubble, everything is a bubble, right? SimpleX is a bubble, everything is a bubble. So you have to be able to look outside of your bubbles and see what other people think about you, right? So the problem today that we see in the world, and that's a huge problem, is that a very large share of people in society agreed that only criminals need privacy and we have nothing to hide. And I see it as exceptionally dangerous to privacy. And reality is, privacy is like a prehistoric concept. People were hiding in caves from predators, right? So privacy protects us from criminals. Privacy protects us from abuse. Privacy protects us from our money being stolen, our life being destroyed, etc. If we don't have privacy, we don't have protection. And before the internet, we learned to have doors and locks and various physical defenses. And the problem with internet being one of the biggest innovation is that it destroyed all those defenses, right? We're accessible, we communicate over the internet. It made the world interconnected, interdependent, and privacy is as important as ever, right? If you didn't read Eric Hughes' manifesto, it's worth reading. It's as relevant today as it was in 1993. It's just the argument changed, right? The argument in 1993 was in 90s was, can people use cryptography? Can cryptography be exported? And there was huge debate in courts and outside about that. But luckily we won this war. And today's argument happens about what Eric mentioned in a small part of his manifesto, right? Eric actually talks about kind of hiding your identity, hiding who you talk to, protecting it from any abuse, right? So the current argument happens around having a digital identity, right? That's a horrible set of laws that's being debated in various countries. And the argument, if the argument that privacy is not necessary for everybody wins, then we're completely screwed, right? So when I hear statements like, we don't care about regulation, the fact that Monero is not accepted in Europe is problem of Europe and not of Monero, I'm kind of worried because it justifies the views of people that privacy is not a good thing, that privacy is not something that helps everybody, that privacy only needed by people who have something to hide. These narratives are exceptionally dangerous. So and I don't know what Monero wants to be. I'm unapologetically anti-anarchist, right? I believe in
Monero not being accepted in Europe is not a fault of Monero. It's more of a fault of what you just said. People that say you have nothing to hide. So Monero has never done anything out of the normal, other than provide a private way to transfer money, and it was accepted for 10 years. It was just recently that Europe decided that people don't deserve privacy, and that unless you tell exchanges your entire wallet history, every time you've ever transacted, and this is an exchange. So if you have a bank account, you don't have to tell anybody else this information. If you have a stock trading account, the stock exchange doesn't have to know how much money is in your bank account. But when it comes to cryptocurrency trading, they want to know everything. And that's them trying to make a new normal. This isn't regulatory denial. This is a regulatory attack against privacy. So with Monero, just keep doing the same thing it's always been doing and not making changes to the protocol to comply with new regulations that that don't affect the protocol, don't affect the person, it only affects an exchange, isn't regulatory denial. Why would Monero make a change to the protocol to comply with something that only affects exchanges? Like, this isn't like if I transfer you money to your Monero donation address that you have to do something special. This is only about exchanges. So the fact that exchanges can't accept Monero is not a Monero issue. It's an issue with the exchange landscape.
With all respect, I disagree. I think that the fact that Monero cannot be traded on exchanges in Europe fundamentally affects Monero adoption. And I think by saying it's not our problem, you are kind of crippling yourself. I think the only viable position would be to say, yes, it's a problem, and we're looking into it, and we're trying to solve it. And I think that, there is lobbying in this world, and big tech lobbies their interest all the time. And Monero has a large and vibrant community that is interested in Monero's success. And if Monero doesn't want to defend, so if you disagree with this law, you should be in court.
No, Monero is a decentralized. There's no leader in Monero. There's no CEO. There's no boss. Monero has people in it. No, hear me out. Monero has people in the community that work with blockchain analysis, that work with compliance, that do all this stuff. Good. But Monero as a project, it's not our job to, for example, like when Binance wanted to delist Zcash or Firo, they wanted them to create a new address type that would basically tell the exchange everything about the funds. Well, Monero, that you can't, because we don't have a leader. There's no boss. There's no CEO. There's nobody in the. You can't just put that into the code base. It doesn't work like that.
I understand. Look, I'm an engineer. What I'm saying is that it would massively help if there was some non-profit organization that represented interests of all Monero users in courts, in the EU, in the governments, with exchanges, and you had an open court case with every single exchange that refused to list Monero, trying to prove it in court why they must list Monero. So effectively, that Monero as a whole, I don't know how it would work, but I don't see any obstacles to creating a non-profit that would be funded by the Monero users via donations, and that would represent interests of the Monero community in a way that the law prescribes as those interests to be represented in courts.
Well, the problem is you have product or you have blockchains like Zcash that have a lot more money than Monero, have developer fees and whatever else, so that they have a source of income to be able to do these things. And instead of fighting for privacy, they do the opposite and just comply. And that hurts everybody. That's what hurts everybody, in my opinion, is that while they do lobby, and they also don't try to normalize the privacy aspect.
I'd like to tack onto that just really quick. I'd like to tack onto that as an example of what Offern is saying, there are no exchanges that have Z addresses. There's Zcash, but they have Zcash, but they only have T addresses on their exchanges, despite their extensive lobbying network. So I would kind of push back by using that as an example.
Correct. Yeah, I honestly think that Monero community bringing up Zcash is counterproductive and only hurts Monero in any context, right? For example, comparing prices, I don't see what purpose it serves, right? You have a fantastic product, right? I never believed in opt-in privacy. Opt-in privacy limits our choices, right? We have opt-in secret chats in Telegram. How many people use them? Zcash, I don't know what share of users use like shielded addresses on Zcash, but even if it's sufficient, it's still opt-in privacy. It still makes non-private transactions stand out, and it by default makes people who use shielded addresses as more suspicious. So I think this whole design undermines the security, and I don't even see why you should worry about what Zcash is doing, right? Because like users comes to us every day and say, oh, the product X does Y, you also have to do Y. My answer is I don't care what product X is doing. We do what we believe.
You're in regulatory denial.
Also, I would just like to add the stat that from what I understand, it's about 27% of Zcash is shielded in the Z pool.
Right, exactly. Right. So that's good. I didn't know that, but it's a substantial number, and it means that they it's better than I thought. Actually, I think less than 27% of Telegram users use secret chats, right? But what I'm just saying is, I wouldn't care about what Zcash is doing. I'm more carried about what Monero community could have done in quartz, and I'm pretty sure that like Monero has what combined capitalization of Monero is what, 2 billion today?
I think it's like 5 billion.
5, yeah,
six, almost 7.
Yeah, it's
right,
almost
right.
7.
So I think if you create a non-profit with $1 million annual budget to lobby Monero interest and to defend Monero in courts, you will fund this $1 million non-profit in no time, right? People will just throw in
but
donations.
Monero doesn't. No, but Monero doesn't have that sort of capital. We don't have.
No. I'm not saying that Monero should fund it. I am saying that Monero users will fund it, right? Just whatever, whoever can do it. I don't understand. I don't understand.
I've been trying to push this initiative as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
the DAC can lead this initiative. Set up non-profit.
Well, I don't even know if it needs to be me. I'm doing a lot of things in this space.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I put it out there. When I've been talking about trying to put a group together to eliminate the bit license in New York. I saw that as target number 1. We have the resources to do it. I voice it now and again. Email me if you're interested in helping lead that initiative. Maybe you're an attorney, you're into Monero, you want to do something for the space. That step up. There's definitely openings for that. And Offrin is making a good point. That is one of the primary differentiators between Monero and Zcash. But we need to be cognizant of the fact that is a disadvantage, and do something about it and solve the problem. And that's exactly what Evgeny is saying. That's saying it's futile. He's saying let's fix it. And I agree. I think that is a path we need to consider. Whether it's a non-for-profit that's funded by but somebody needs to be reliably putting in the effort on a daily basis to be out there advocating on behalf of Monero from a legal standpoint.
Correct. Doug, I cannot agree more. I believe that it's impossible. I think, look, there are 2 types of communities, right? And communities tend to gravitate to one corner or another, right? Every community either evolves into being very close to a cult, which is an insular culture. Criticism is not accepted, and every problem is responsibility of somebody else. That's one end of the spectrum. And another end of the spectrum is open cultures that accept criticism, that take criticism on board, that make changes to address this criticism, and generally are open to diverse points of view. I'm not saying that Monero is certainly not on the right end of the spectrum, right? Monero, the fact that we have this conversation, the fact that we are able to have this conversation, means that Monero is light years away from the cult, right? But the more we encourage people to have extreme views and make these views norm in the community, the more we are in danger that community develops sort of cultish elements. And of course, exchanges are wrong not to trade Monero. Of course, it's a problem of EU, but I think Monero has the resources, not Monero as Monero developers. It's not the role of Monero developers. It should be some members of Monero community that will take this burden on them, take it as a full-time job, get paid for doing this job, and will represent Monero interests in EU and make it more successful in EU. And I'd be surprised if Monero community wouldn't fund it. And literally raise the hand, you'll have $500,000 annual budget for this nonprofit in no time.
I agree. I mean, we do have Coin Center, these other groups that are out there, but let's face it, Zcash is the one that's paying their bills, and they're not really including Monero in the fight. Exactly. XMR family tipped 0.01 XMR. I tried getting Magic Grants, the nonprofit, to join Blockchain Association. Lobbying.org. I guess that didn't work out, is what he's saying. I don't know. Well, then we got to try other things. But I think now is the time. Given what we're seeing with Zcash, right? I mean, that should be the fire that's lit under the Monero community. We're doing so many other things correctly. We just need to focus on this other area, whether we want to or not. We need to.
Ruben from Firo said recently on Twitter that so Firo had added the exchange addresses. They added a way for exchanges to keep Firo listed in order to comply with the laws.
Even did that, right?
And then they're the ones that came to Zcash with the idea. They're the ones that told Zcash about the idea. Firo was ultimately delisted. So Ruben's take on the matter was they should have done nothing. because it didn't work, and all it did was basically hurt the user base. Like, they complied with the regulation that was a bunch of fluff. I mean, all the lobbying they did and all the work they did didn't help. All that really mattered for Zcash was that Zcash pays more. I don't know, maybe whether they bribe people or what they do, but to keep listed. But Firo wasn't able to be listed. They got delisted.
You know, there is this. If you read this field, have you read Phil Zimmerman essay about why I published PGP? That's very interesting read. I was rereading it after all this debate and etc. etc. He has a nice quote from Gandhi in the beginning. Everything you'll do will be insignificant, but you have to do it anyway. I think it's very important to understand that the only way we fail if we don't try. That's a guarantee.
I think if Firo, Zcash, and the rest of the quote-unquote privacy coins all said no, then we wouldn't be in the situation. They wouldn't have delisted all of us.
Maybe you're right.
The exchanges themselves would have lobbied, because, for example, with Binance, until CZ got arrested, he was pushing for XMR to be listed. Like, one thing that was said earlier in the conversation here, I think it was Shortwave that said it, was that if you send Z address Zcash to Binance, that they'll just basically seize the money. They won't refund it. They won't credit it. They just basically seize the money. Well, when Litecoin MWeb came out, they also said the same thing about MWeb, that if you send them MWeb, that they'll just take it. But at the same time, Binance still accepted Monero. So it wasn't like, oh, we won't accept privacy coins. It was basically like, well, if we have the ability to view into your balance, that the regulations say we have to. And Binance basically fought to keep Monero listed until they couldn't anymore. And with all these other privacy coins that don't fight for the same thing, that hurts the cause. And they have a lot more money than us to throw at the problem. So it's not like it's a choice of ours to not fight. It's more like we're fighting against the grain, and the best we can do is write good code and hope that people use Monero.
I think it's not enough. I honestly think if all we do is write code, software code, that's not enough, right? I agree with the premise that we cypherpunks write code, but I think it's for the reason we use the word code to mean both software code and the law, right? I think we have to absolutely, if we want to change society for the better, I believe we have to take an active stance of like interpreting, defining, using, relying on the law as a resource, because what exchanges think about the law is not the law, and what regulators think about the law, it's not the law. Every single regulator guidance you read, it says it's our opinion. It doesn't change the law. And if you disagree with regulators, you can use the courts. And if you disagree with exchange, if you think they're discrediting you unfairly, which is what happens with Monero in my view, exchanges are discriminating against Monero without a real legal justification of it. Why you guys are not in the court against them? I don't understand that. That's cheaper than you think. You can make a lot of legal mess against exchanges who discriminate against Monero, and you're not doing it. It's much easier to blame other people in your problems than to do something about your problems.
I don't understand though. Is Monero a protected class? How discrimination is for protected classes, not for business decisions.
Yeah, there are Monero users who are affected by these decisions. You can make a class action lawsuit against exchange. I'm not a lawyer. Look, you shouldn't get my legal advice. But my question is, somebody should be giving you legal advice, right? And somebody should be doing something on behalf of all the Monero users. Monero, of course, Monero is not a business and Monero can't sue exchange, but there absolutely can be a class action lawsuits of all Monero holders against the exchange, which is even more powerful, because if they have to pay compensation to the class, that may be...
I think it probably doesn't even need to go that, it wouldn't even need to go that far. We just need an organization that's actively communicating with exchanges, lobbying, lobbying regulators, talking with the exchanges and walking them through it and making them essentially alleviating their needs, right? We know that here in the US you legally can list Monero. Kraken does it. There's got to be some incentive that would allow other exchanges to do it in the US as well.
But not in the EU.
We're not talking to them. Yeah.
Right. Not in the UK and not in the EU. We have accounts with. We cannot use Monero on exchange on Kraken in the UK, for example.
Yes.
right?
Yes. No, I know.
So I understand that they do it in the US.
Evgeny, let me add, because I know we've taken a lot of your time and you've been very generous.
Kick me out. Yeah, kick me
no,
out.
No, I don't want to kick you. I want to get you, and you've touched on it a little bit, but what is your overall like Monero versus Zcash? You basically your Monero take, your digital cash take on crypto. Is Monero, doing the best at it? What does it need to do to continue to win at it? Is it not doing the best?
I think Monero is Haskell. Somebody asked why we use Haskell. Haskell has this motto about avoiding success at all costs. It's not about avoiding success. It's about avoiding success at all costs, right? So there is always some price of the success, and sometimes this price can be too high. For example, people say, guys, you can't succeed unless you do a proper, I'll get to Monero, that's an example, right? Proper multi-device implementation. And I know that there is no single precedent of secure multi-device implementation in the industry. You can crucify me for that, right? But fundamentally, creating multi-device implementation is a huge risk of creating a backdoor. So it has to be much more complex, right? Talking about Monero, sometimes I have this feeling that Monero is rushing to success at all costs and not taking a slow approach to this success.
Can I interrupt you for just a second, Evgeny? Real quick, Doug, Tony had to go, so you're going to be on spot for news. Just letting you know.
No. All right, it's okay. Go ahead. This is important. I want to continue to hear Evgeny here.
As I can shut up and wait and okay, but anyway.
No, please continue. Please continue.
No.
So for example, I have been reading I love currently Monero has a solid cryptographic design and with decoy signatures, right? And we all know that recent attacks on Monero chain made this decoy defense less efficient, and 16 decoys don't provide exact 16 anonymity set per transaction because lots of fake decoys on the network that are run by attackers, right? So the reality is anonymity set is what, I don't know what it is now, 8, 5, I don't know. But that's not the point. And full chain proof is obviously, or zero knowledge proof effectively, right? It's a great technology. But for example, I think that before it launches on Monero, there should be a formal verification, right? There should be some funding for formal verification of this new cryptography, which wouldn't just be an opinion of the cryptographers who designed this model, but also would be confirmed by completely independent cryptographers who will run formal verification in Coq and will prove cryptographers can prove things, not just state things. That this cryptography is sound, that it doesn't fall apart. There are no attack vectors that can undermine security models. And I think what's particularly worrying, to me, for this design, that it has 3 independent parts, and there are links between those parts. This cryptography is over my head, right? I know applied cryptography, but for example, there are Jeff, for example, here in the chat was recently making comments. He's a fantastic cryptographer, right? He knows 100x more cryptography than I do. There are people at Daniel Bernstein's level. Actually, Daniel Bernstein does consulting, right? So I think that Monero absolutely should, for the prudency, not rush this migration to the new cryptographic design without doing a formal verification. That's my personal view. And that kind of attempt to rush things just to get hold of the market. Look, Monero is here to stay. This is not going anywhere.
We're not rushing anything. It's gone through cryptographic review by I think 2 different parties.
Review is
5 or 6 different cryptographers.
I haven't seen formal verification. If you show me
formal, I'm pretty sure CipherStack and Paradise both provided proofs.
Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, if that's it, I'm withdrawing my object. I searched for formal verification, and all I've seen, I haven't seen formal verification. I've seen opinions.
I'll try to find it and send it.
Yeah. If you can share, I will publicly apologize and say, guys, you're doing things by the book. But I spent some time looking for formal verification, and I couldn't find it. So, and I think racing against chain analysis. I don't think chain analysis is a threat for you. I think what chain analysis has to do with you. Maybe I don't understand. Anyway, I think you have your place in the market is indisputable, and you are an indisputable reason. leader of this market, right, of transactions. You provide security of transactions, but I think as often, right, we destroy what we do ourselves. For example, you criticize the way we published our voucher plan because it was unclear, and that's the self-inflicted damage. And I think the same to some extent may be happening with Monero community, when some self-inflicted damage may be happening when you don't engage with the criticism the way could be productive, or don't necessarily engage with regulators the way it could, or with exchanges, etc., etc. I think if you play things right, Monero is indisputable leader in secure payments, and I really hope it to remain like that. Because blockchain payments are insecure, right? If people are using public blockchains, then their IP address gets associated with the wallet. It's almost like walking around with a number on your head. I have like $500,000, right? Like whatever number you have there. So it's just dangerous, right? It's insane, right? You use your IP address, even if you connect with Tor, you still use the same. So like security of public blockchain puts people in danger, and we've seen lots of criminal attacks on people who possess large holdings, even moderate holdings on public blockchains, right? And Monero protects those people, but your communication doesn't focus on security that it provides to people from criminals, on security it provides to ordinary people in their lives. Instead, this whole communication is more like, okay, let's just ignore regulations and what what Monero does to people. It protects people from financial crime, abuse, fraud, from burglaries, from being attacked on the street just because they own cryptocurrency, because it makes this knowledge not public. That's what's important. I think that's what you should be focusing on your communications.
From within our bubble, that's what we focus on. From outside of our bubble, that's what some of the narrative happens to be, is that like you'll see people saying Monero is only used by criminals, and if you use Monero, you're probably buying drugs or this, that, or
that's
whatever.
Horrible.
Like, nobody in the Monero community.
But look, but you can't. You shouldn't repeat those things, right? It's dangerous to repeat those things. You have to keep repeating things that you believe in, and educate your community members, and make sure that what people hear and engage with press, with regulators, with PRs. That requires budget. That requires professional communication. We don't have a budget for that, right? We only raised a tiny amount of cash, and without generous Jack Dorsey's investment, would be dead a long time ago. We wouldn't even have this conversation. But Monero has people who have about $5 billion holdings in Monero. These people are interested in your success. There should be a professional PR firm working on your behalf. It doesn't matter who hires it. And there should be a professional legal firm working on behalf of those people, right? Somebody has to step up, organize it, as Doug said, and make Monero successful. But the whole ethos, we build a parallel economy, because that's what I hear from Monero community. We are anarchists. We want to build a parallel economy that doesn't depend on state, that doesn't communicate with state, that doesn't acknowledge the state. That's what I hear from some part of Monero community. And I think, and it's certainly not the sentiment of the whole Monero community. Majority of Monero users are like Doug, or they want to run their business on Monero. They like Monero, that Monero protects people from crime. They literally want to exist and run their business. They want to exist as part of society. They don't want to hide their face, right? That's the majority of Monero users. But that's not the narrative that comes. I think the failure of Monero community today is to create a compelling narrative that what you do protects people from crime. If you do it, you'll win.
And even in the Monero Simplex group, I've had people that will ask me things like, how come I have a Facebook account or whatever? And I'm like, because I'm normal. And they're like, well, if you use Monero, you're supposed to be anonymous. I'm like, no, if you use Monero, anybody can use Monero.
Exactly.
Like, it's no different than using cash or a credit card or a debit. Like, it's not like it's only for a specific, it's being marketed or it's being modeled like it's only useful for or that it's even more useful for a specific genre of people. It's not how it is. Monero is supposed to mimic the experience you get when using the traditional
100%.
finance.
Monero, look, you've already achieved next to impossible. Monero accepted in more retail outlets than any other cryptocurrency. That's the status quo, right? Lightning is trying to get to the same spot, but I think today, like if you take like some countries with some challenges in financial system, I don't know, some Latin American countries or whatnot, you'll find more retail outlets that accept Monero than any other cryptocurrency. Am I right?
Yeah, even online, if for places
Correct.
that accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Monero, it's normally
Correct.
like 50% Monero, 49% Bitcoin, and 1% Litecoin.
And that's your proof that Monero is used by ordinary people more than any other cryptocurrency.
Right.
And that's what should be the narrative of Monero community. But then you go on Twitter and you say that regulations are important, and then you get a shitstorm coming from Twitter people, like, right? So like, whatever. Like,
that's where you call it crypto Twitter, and that, like, one thing that we emphasize hard in the Matrix
but look,
community.
it's the same.
That,
it's the same as during crypto wars. There were two parts of the communities at the time. There was part represented by Eric Hughes' Cypherpunk manifesto, and you should read it all if you want privacy, because it's highly relevant today. And there was another part that was represented by Tim May, Crypto-Anarchist manifesto, right? And the part that was represented by Cypherpunk manifesto actually changed the law and changed the society for the better, and they helped everybody. And I think that what we do now, we should take lessons from this recent past, and we have similar legal challenges. I think it's likely going to be called identity wars, right? If we look in the future, right? Everybody wants us to walk around with identity on our forehead, be it a QR code or whatever, some number, right? And show it whatever we do in the society. That's insane. That's utter insanity. That will make us all slaves, and we know that. So identity wars will be happening, right? Because some people see it as efficient mechanism of control, as mechanism to, I don't know, it's just like, their logic escapes me. I think it will only cause suffering and crime and reduction in quality of life. I don't see what bad can come out of it. No problems they declare to want to solve is going to solve by identity solutions. So Monero is kind of offering, but it has to at least try, right? It may fail. That's all right. I don't see the problem with failure. Like, when I was starting this thing, everybody said, "You're gonna fail." I said, "Maybe, but I must try, right? I can forgive myself for failing. I can't forgive myself for not trying." I think Monero community is in the same spot. If you engage with the regulators, if you engage with the state, with the exchanges, your probability of success is maybe 5%, maybe 10%, but you must try nevertheless. There's no other way. If you don't try, they'll fail, right? If Monero, and it's actually just not true. Monero is the most widely accepted cryptocurrency in retail. Why Monero.org website doesn't say that? Monero is the only cryptocurrency that protects people from burglaries and financial crime. Why your website doesn't say that? That's what you sell. I'm sorry,
is there any point at which you believe in, like, just straight up disobeying laws that are contrary to human rights?
I don't believe it, because I don't equate law to the state, right? Law is a complex construct. I spend lots of time studying it. I don't believe that disobeying law is a viable strategy. There is a line, and it's a totalitarian country, and then you have to evade and hide and do something. If the country gets to the point when human rights are not respected, when free enterprise is prohibited, and there are quite a few countries in the world beyond this line, then you do what you want to survive, right? I'm not going to argue that. What I believe is that most of us, I lived in Soviet Union, right? Not in Russia, in Soviet Union. So I know what totalitarian regime looks like. I can tell you, Western society are light years ahead from this state. Even Europe, even the European Union that people in the States see as the same as Soviet Union, not even remotely close. So there is still space for the fight. There is still space to prove your rights in court. There is still, and yes, the courts are corrupt, and yes, people get killed sometimes if they challenge it. But what else can we do, right? I think the power of Monero is in numbers. You have 5 billion capitalization. You have millions of people using Monero. It's the most widely accepted currency in retail. There should be a budget for PR and marketing and defending your interests against exchanges. There should be, like, Monero community. If Monero community doesn't create this budget, it'll be in a bad place, I think.
We have an XMR chat here from a guy named Anon. He tipped 2.8 Monero. He said, if later there is a law where instant messaging services have to provide some way for the government to read and analyze all messages to protect the children, they will do it. Wait, let me finish with the chat. If later there's a law where instant messaging services have to provide some way for the government to read and analyze all messages to protect the children, they will do it because they have to comply with regulators, right? That's the XMR chat.
No, that's not right, because people confuse the law and regulations. All I'm saying is we have to comply with applicable laws. And what regulators say, regulators don't define the law. Regulators only declare their opinion about the law. And they try to enforce their opinion. And every responsible business head that cares about their users have to challenge this opinion if the opinion of the regulator is different from the opinion of the operator. So, like, doing what adults tell you is a childish approach, and I am not a child, right? So if we are responsible adults, then we form our own opinion about what the law tells us to do, and then we defend this opinion as much as necessary. What I can promise to all users, and that's a very hard promise, we have a privacy policy that's a legally binding contract, and we see it like that. Read it. This is literally the best privacy policy in the industry. And whenever users come to us and say, hey, we don't like this point in your privacy policy, we change it, if we believe they're right? We effectively see our privacy policy as a binding contract that gives lots of promises to our users about what data we retain or don't retain, what requests we can answer. So privacy policy says very specifically that we may comply with compulsory requests from law enforcement authorities, and that's our duty by the law. But the keyword here is obviously compulsory, right? So compare, do your own research, right? So when you say that somebody will tell us do X and we'll do X, you have to understand, under the UK law, changes in the law don't nullify contracts. So we have a contract with our users, and we can't just break it because the law changes. We'll have to reconcile this difference. So what I can promise is that we will stick with this contract, whatever happens. We will not continue operation if we can't do it. If we have to change this agreement with the users, we will communicate it to the users openly and transparently, always trying to find the way to comply with the law in a way that benefits the users. Right? If we can't find this way, we won't be operating, obviously, right? So what's the point providing a bad service or doing something that the users all will defect? Because what people who say something like this, they will say, we will do it quietly, not today. No, we're not going to do anything quietly. Look, you see, like the whole idea about avoiding success at all costs. So there is a line we are never going to cross, and this is our binding agreement with the users. We'll have to openly and transparently communicate the change. And we already have a system for communicating such changes. It's in place from quite early days, right? We started developing it. We actually released it, like we were on the verge of release, and then Apple said us, you don't have people accepting the privacy policies. Oh, here you are. It's crazy. So we knew it has to be. So if the privacy policy changes, it can't change in a day, right? There is a 30 days notice. It's a condition of the contract. So if we want to change it, we have to notify users about the change in 30 days before this change applies. So second, notifications will happen via the app. When you install the new version of the app, it will show you that there is a new privacy policy. It's a full screen notice. And not only the whole text will be there, because I hate it, like when Apple does it all the time, different companies, Google, Apple, everything, they just throw 80 pages of legalese at you and somebody has to read it. Thanks God we have LLMs now. I just throw this shit at LLM. We did it differently, right? We maintain our policy in GitHub so you can see history of changes. And whenever we show the new privacy policy, we also give you a link so you can just see the changes via this link, right? So you can click on this link, you can analyze the changes. If you like them, you keep going. If you don't like it, you come back to us and say, hey man, what the fuck are you writing in this? Sorry, my French. In this privacy policy, if you really want to do what you wrote here, we walk, right? And we can discuss it and explain and maybe change it before it applies and whatever. So I believe in transparency and openness of communication. That's why our code is 100% open source, right? You don't like us, you just make your own app or your own service and do what you want. So likewise, if we provide your service, there is a privacy policy that applies to us and to you. It's very restrictive on server operators. If you like it, you use it. If you don't like it, you run your own service. If you run your own service, our privacy policy wouldn't apply to you at all, right? So you can always run your own service. That's it. That's what we can promise. And when somebody tells us that we'll do whatever, I don't know, somebody will tell us, I don't know why they think so. I've never done that. I've never. So we're doing it for the users. We want to do what's great for the users, and we have a process for negotiating changes with the users if such changes are necessary, right? There may be changes in some regulations that will say, okay, what may happen, for example, right? We might be in, like, by the way, do you know that the UK is the only country that doesn't mandate that telecommunication operators log IP addresses? Literally every single other European country mandates telecommunication operators to log IP addresses, whether they ask or not. That's the fact, right? The UK doesn't have this baseline requirement. We don't have to log IP addresses, and we don't because we don't have to. There's no requirement to do it. But in every single other European country, there is a requirement to log IP addresses. And for example, if there are server operators that would operate in Europe, they would most likely need to log IP addresses because that's a regulatory.
I just want to quickly chime in. We missed a big XMR chat here. Anon tipped 1.59 XMR. Please forward that donation to Evgeny. He's been doing great. He's been doing great having to listen to that yelling narrative. I assume he's referring to me, or I don't know if it's somebody else. Guys, I'm dealing with the crying baby back here. We've kind of went pretty long here on our special guest segment today, which I think is great, and I appreciate you taking the time. Let me make sure we didn't miss any other big XMR chats. Guys, did I miss any big ones that you saw? We had a tip here. Wolf goes bleeped, tipped 0.01159. Cypherpunk and Crypto Anarchist manifestos, and he's providing the link for those.
Read both. Highly recommend. Great.
I think a lot of people tuning into this show have read them at some point, but it's always worth reading again. Short reads that really help remind us of what all this is all about. Let me see if I missed any others. Hold on. I don't know. Alaska Anon tipped something here. Maybe I could bring him up. We could run the viewers on stage segment, and we could bring Alaska Anon up. I see he's sitting here.
Sure.
I think, talk to you directly.
Should we just skip the news this week?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to because I don't have the link set up. I was expecting Tony to do it, so I won't be able to do that right now.
Okay,
so let me go ahead and play the viewers on stage.
Play the news segment to get the sponsor thing, though.
We'll go ahead and do that.
The Monerotopia.
Hold on a sec.
The Monerotopia weekly news segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Yeah, apologies, we don't have the news this week. Maybe we'll get Tony to do it after the show, and then we'll just post it on X. The big news this week was Cake Wallet hit 1 million unique downloads. I would say that was the biggest news of the week. Also, what's going on with the Samurai wallet case? I believe one of the accused. You guys remember what was his name? Was it Keon, right?
Yeah, Keon. I can't remember his last name.
He received the maximum of basically sentencing, I believe, of 5 years, and then an additional financial penalty. So those are the two big news stories of the week. Not going to go through them now. Maybe I'll do a Monero talk show this week that focuses on that if I can get a good guest. Without further ado, let me run the viewers on stage, and we'll see if anybody wants to jump up, and then we'll end it from there.
The Monerotopia viewers on stage segment is sponsored by XMR Bar. Play dice with Monero using a privacy-respecting and provably fair algorithm. Go to xmr.bar. As always, verify and never trust.
Please gamble responsibly in accordance with the laws of your jurisdiction.
All right, we got XMR family. We've got Alaskan on. What's up, guys?
This has been an absolute banger of a show.
Yeah, it really has. And Evgeny's been very patient and answering everybody's questions. I believe he's still there. I don't know. He turned up his camera. He might still be chilling there if people have questions.
I am here, yes. Thanks, Guy, by the way. Doug, you can kick me out at any point and just don't mind.
No.
I really appreciate you doing this and giving me the opportunity to share.
If it were up to me, I would never kick out a guest.
I think you may undervalue how much the community at large appreciates you being on the show and answering all of our questions and so on. It's a very passionate group of people with a lot of very diverse opinions. So being able to address all of those in a public forum. I very much appreciate the fact that you have a Q&A up and stuff like that, but I think you just as much as anyone can appreciate, like, it's very, very difficult to crawl through all of the documentation that everybody is providing in every interest segment of these different diverse groups of opinions. And it goes a long way for you to not only have the Q&A and the frequently asked questions and all of that stuff, but to actually come on these live platforms and, you know, get crucified for, like, it's, you know, as polite and professional as Offern can be, he goes pretty hard on, like, real, and so does Bawdy. Like, they're not afraid to ask the tough questions. So anybody who's got the cojones to come on, you know, let me tip my hat to you, sir.
Thank you. Yes. Look, I think we are where we are thanks to community, thanks to listening what people want. We don't do things right on the first try usually. Sometimes we do, but we generally pivot to doing things right. We don't make decisions behind closed doors. It's more kind of risky this way, and it takes some patience to learn what people want. But we believe in transparency and openness and discussing with users our direction before we take it, because we've seen lots of examples when people, being afraid of criticism, they just decide behind closed doors and do something irreversible, right? And then you can't change it. And then you're already so far along this path that you really have to deal with that, right? I don't want to point fingers. Somebody may understand what I'm talking about. I don't really want to criticize anybody. I believe that our community helps us a lot, not just by using our product, but by helping us understand what product is needed and by giving feedback. And it often comes in the form of fierce criticism. It often comes in the form of, like, highly emotional attacks. I honestly don't care. I just listen, and if we can change to better, we change for better.
One of the things that I was trying to tackle with my earlier XMR chat comment, excuse me, for those who know me in the community know that I am about as far in the voluntarist anarchist spectrum as I think anybody can really get. But part of the conditions of being a voluntarist is if somebody isn't aggressing against you, they're entitled to their own view on things. So I'm not, you know, if you have a kind of a law and order side to you, and, you know, like regulatory practices being a way that you can cohesively get along, I'm not going to judge you for that. I may not, you know, I may be like I mean, look at the flag in the background, right? I might be like, Mr. Don't Comply. I get it, but that's my opinion, and I'm not going to, and I hope everybody listening who shares that opinion with me is not going to judge other people who have come to a different conclusion. That's okay. But even still, with that opinion that I have and have had for a very long time, myself and a few other louder individuals in the community have actually been championing not just a Monero, what would you call that, like lobbyist group, I guess, or something like that, but there's a very, very big issue in the open source software development space just generally, which is there are a lot of donations and there are a lot of projects that require donations. But nobody has really cracked the code on how to manage handling the donation-based model. And it is absolutely destroying the potential of this community. And a few ideas have been floated around, like a nonprofit or a trust or something like that. One of the things that I had pointed out is there are a lot of people who they get their wealth and their standard of living from other sources. They're not necessarily like code developers. They're not necessarily lawyers, but they could absolutely be trusted to handle something like a nonprofit community development function. So they could be trusted to manage cash and so on. Or you could do it as like several independent bodies within that organization. Like, for example, one could be kind of like a religious body, and another one could be maybe like a political body, and another one could be just like a developer-led body. And instead of lots of different projects having to fight for the attention of communities, which robs them of their time. And then one thing that I would point out with what you're going through right now, trying to handle engaging with the community personally is a very time-intensive problem that must be done by developers who are leading ambitious projects. And my thesis was, if there was one body, or maybe 2 or 3, that these people could go to directly, and they could get kind of grilled on, okay, what exactly are you trying to accomplish? What documentation do you have? And then those people could thoughtfully organize those thoughts and respond to the wider community. That wider community then could donate to an aggregating financial body that could handle these problems. And the way that I look at it is, this is exceptionally much more efficient than the way that we do it now, because each and every development each and every developer within the open source or freedom inspired software worldview of the many different sub worldviews that it includes, they're spending hours and hours of their personal time to try to get the attention of people, get, like, who can review my code? And then a whole bunch of people who don't know how to do code are chiming in all over the place. Or how can we fund this? And people who don't really have the business sense are chiming in, and I kind of felt bad for you, because I was watching people who have no concept of why you're saying Monero isn't a viable candidate. And maybe you noticed, I go by Repeal the 19th USA on my Twitter handle. Kind of right out the gates when you had announced this, I was like, well, wait a minute, guys. Like, most of these comments are talking about, why don't you use Monero for something that Monero is not designed to do anyway. This is not what he's talking about. And a lot of you may need to increase your understanding of just how the code works before you start saying, like, oh, build it on Monero or what. That doesn't make any sense. And then another thing is a lot of us in this space champion the Unix philosophy of develop a piece of software, make it do what you're trying to make it do extremely well, make it easily integrated into other functions, but hone in your own code base to do exactly what it's designed to do very, very well. And the everything app thing is killing software, in my opinion. Because when people used the Unix philosophy, it was very easy to build things on top of things and build things on top of things. And one of the things that I see SimpleX and Monero are doing, that I'm worried that the contention that emerged in the community is going to destroy. I don't think you are contributing to this problem, by the way, but if we keep trying to make everything apps, if we keep trying to build everything to be integrated on the ground level, if one software project wants to pivot to another direction or do things differently, it's going to damage the other things that are linked to it. We need to focus on, if SimpleX is going to be a chat-based system and it's going to be designed to efficiently do what it is that you're trying to do, it's probably not a good idea to take another project that is intended to be private digital cash and is doing it extremely well right now, to try to make these things compatible is probably not a good idea. Like, we should keep Monero focused on its purpose, and I hope that you are going to keep SimpleX focused on its purpose. So from the get-go, I was very dubious about the idea of either trying to build payment systems around Monero or trying. If there exists a way to pay for SimpleX, then there will exist a way for Monero to pay for that thing that pays for SimpleX. Keep it simple. And after listening to this interview, I know this is very long-winded, but I just think it's you know, I want to try to add my 2 cents here. After listening to this interview, I am more sure than ever that that is the best approach. We really do need to stick to the things that have worked for 40 years now, which is design software for a single purpose and do it very, very well. And the simpler and better and more effective it is, you can then integrate each piece much more effectively than if we try to link all of these projects together. I don't think that's a good idea. People way better than almost everybody in this community invented that philosophy in the first place. They're the people who invented everything that we have built upon since then. If it has worked that long, we should stick to the principles that got us this far. And one of the reasons why I believe Monero has been so unbelievably successful, there's been very little volatility relative to the rest of the crypto market. Its adoption is incredible. And I think that's because it has stayed laser focused on exactly what it's trying to do. And if the Monero community wants to grow things and wants to integrate it with other things, then it's very simple: adoption. And in my personal opinion, people like Monero, Matteo, and some other people, the most logical step next would be stop harassing other projects and focus on business-to-business adoption. Tweak Monero to be more effective for business-to-business adoption. And if you want SimpleX servers to be using Monero a lot more, well, then you would address that problem instead of trying to tell another software project what to do. If Monero had more efficient business-to-business adoption, especially at the wallet level, it would be extremely easy for these people to adopt Monero if they choose to. It would be very easy to eliminate all of the government arguments against Monero being just a widely accepted valid cryptocurrency, because businesses will follow the tax codes if it was easier for them to do so. They already are following the tax codes. So if we design our wallets to make that very easy to do, then they will adopt it en masse because it already has all of these advantages like border crossing payments and low overhead. And how many businesses would kill to get away from credit card transactions? I'm one of them. And I already accept Monero. But most people don't realize that if our business accepts Monero, there is a lot of labor overhead in our accounting department to make sure we get it exactly right. And that's because Monero has not done, well, I shouldn't say that. There are people like Vic, or I forgot his name, the guy from Paul from Edge Wallet, Matteo, offering all of those, online tutorials on how you can do it very efficiently and effectively. But there's still a minority of people who are trying to make business-to-business adoption. And that's the best thing we can do to help SimpleX, in my opinion. Adopt Monero would be make it stupid easy for them to comply as much or as little as they choose to without any friction whatsoever. There's no friction on a Monero transaction. There's no friction on the transaction fees of Monero. It's great. The friction is at the accounting level. It's a disaster. And that's because we focus a lot on privacy, and we always should. But what we should also focus on is, what is the user telling us they need to adopt it at the next level? And I am unanimously hearing from business owners, including myself, okay, that when you accept Monero payments for business transactions, the friction is at the compliance and accounting level. And whether or not you want to be like an anti-compliance bro, such as myself, you still need to know where your money came from and where it's going. And you need to be able to do it efficiently, because it takes like 2 weeks at any major business to crater if you haven't tracked your spending and your accounts receivable properly. And before we start pointing fingers at people like SimpleX and all of these other people, even if you think your criticisms are valid, Monero has a lot of work to do on fixing our business-to-business adoption. All right, rant over. Thank you for listening, sir. Do you have anything to say about that? You're muted. Will you unmute?
Yeah, I have lots to say. You touched on many important points, so I don't even know in which order to address them. You can come back with video so I can see you nodding if you disagree. So you already know your face. So yeah, look, I think to a large degree the problem with open source community is its hostility to the concept of the business. I think that's a root cause of many problems in open source community. I can say I'm successful open source developer myself, right? I developed, before doing SimpleXChat, I developed a library for data validation. I don't know if you know this story. Library for data validation in JavaScript, right? I started in 2015. Like then at some point Mozilla gave grant to Microsoft. So yeah, so it's hugely adopted. It's probably top 20 downloads of JavaScript project today. It receives donations, like 500 million downloads a month, right? It's insane, right? When I was starting, there was like 12 libraries. At some point, I was talking to some software foundation that positioned itself as helping software developers, and yeah, I was interested. I engaged, but then it turned out that their idea of helping is me transferring intellectual property rights. So this is sorry, it's like, what do I get back? I said, nothing. I get help. I said, it's not I get help. It becomes your property. You're asking me to gift what I created to you. I mean, and that's unfortunately that's a prevalent model of software foundation that serve as umbrella for multiple software projects, and it doesn't work, right? And I think fundamentally what we try to do as software developers, we try to create value, right? And when we create value, we kind of should expect that at least some people will pay for the value we create. They share the value with us, right? That's how reciprocity works. And if we spend more money creating value than we earn, then we have losses and we can't exist. And if we make more money than we spend, then it's a profit. For some reason, I don't understand why. These basic concepts of value creation for people are demonized in open source world and privacy world. And one of the major point of criticism, we had your business and not non-profit. And I don't understand why. There are non-profits doing horrible things. Like look at the major non-profits that lobby chat control legislation, that use money from big tech. That's done by non-profits, right? And lots of evil in the world happens under a non-profit umbrellas, right? And lots of good things happen under business umbrellas. So fundamentally, I think that the best model for open source development for people, unless you're doing some foundational software like operating system or a library, if you do user-facing software, I believe that the best model for it is called a business, right? You just create your own business entity. You try to find investors that will fund it, because if you're going to make more money than you spend, then your business is profitable, then investors will make value. People believe that finding investors means surrendering control. That's a very old notion. That's been like that in the last century. There are lots of investment capital that is happy to be used without taking a dash of control. Lots of VCs operate without taking control. We have 2 VCs on cap table on board. They don't have any control. They don't have board seats. I have to chase them to get advice, for God's sake, right? So they really let us do what we believe is right, and they just, if we die, we die. If we succeed, they will be happy. So that's how most investors operate these days. There is actually an interesting, and I think this is something that can be useful to this community. There is a fantastic legislative change that happened in the United States in 2016. And was recently changed in 2020 called crowdfunding, right? So there is a guy called Nicholas Tamarella who took it on himself to change the laws. He organized campaign, and his actions resulted in Congress passing the regulation for crowdfunding, effectively democratizing access to early stage investment in startups, and giving non-qualified investors, ordinary people, ability to invest in early stage ventures, and ability to these early stage ventures to raise money from their communities. I honestly believe that this is one of the best model for fundraising. If you're doing something for people and you know these people, then you should give them shares of your venture, and they should give you money, and you should do it. And if they lose their money, they will be happy because they gave it for a good cause, and you created something anyway. And if you succeed, they will make more money, right? I think this is fantastic, and it shows that even today, legislative changes are possible, because the same man campaigned for increase the limit. You can now raise up to 5 million a year under this regulation. Research it. I think for open source development, for any community-facing projects or privacy-facing projects, a small startup doing it as a business, owned by its founders and its users, without any outside controls, even if you have some VCs on board, doesn't mean they have any control, is honestly one of the best model, and there is no reason to reinvent the wheel. And if you don't want to run the business, just find yourself a co-founder, right? Just find somebody who knows how to run the business better than you know how to run software, write software, and together, the most successful startups have 2 founders. It's exceptionally hard to run startup being the sole founder.
And can I quickly add something?
Of course.
The best business is the business that nobody realizes. So, like, for example, Cake Wallet. Take Cake Wallet, right? Vic and Cake Wallet. He's very, very well known. I can use Cake Wallet, and when I buy a gift card from Cake, part of that money goes to Cake. I don't even think about the fact that a fee is going to Cake. I just buy the gift card and I continue on about my day. Yeah. The fee that's going to Cake Wallet is just insignificant, and I don't even consider it in my daily life.
Yeah, and not from what? Sorry, Anon. How to say Anon? Aknon.
It's Alaskanon, but AK is the symbol for Alaska. Yeah, okay. Alaskanon. Yeah,
Alaskanon. From what Alaskanon is saying, what it appears to me that Monero community is ripe for innovation. There is lots of demand for middle layer businesses. For example, businesses don't want to be like, when you accept credit card payments, you use somebody else's service to do it, right? You get a terminal from them, you get some whatever. So I don't think Monero on its own, as Ofren said before, we're just developers, there is no business, there is no leaders. Monero is nothing, right? It's a group of people. But Monero created a network that creates a massive innovation opportunity for lots of people to run the business. But that requires accepting the fact that you operate in the society. You may dislike regulation. You may want to live in the future where regulations don't matter and there are no states and no borders and whatnot, right? That's all good. That may be the philosophy that we believe in. But you still have to do something today to get to this world. You have to run the business today. And doing that means accepting that regulatory environment is legal, it's real, because we've seen this week what happens if you don't pay attention to that, right? Nothing good happens from that. You lose ability to create value for your customers. You lose freedom. So you have to accept the reality of regulatory environment, and you have to operate within the constraints of this environment and find the solution that benefits your users without you breaking the laws. That's important. So, for example, it feels like money processor in Monero would be a fantastic business opportunity if somebody can do it right? Solve the compliance issues for the businesses, solve the accounting problem for the businesses, so businesses can accept Monero without touching Monero. Wouldn't it be cool? Right?
Yeah, that actually exists. There's a few. I can only name one of them off the top of my head. Good. Cryptomus or something like that. But there's a couple of them that are basically they handle everything for you. They just send you the fiat equivalent of the crypto that they're accepting. And but then we also have self-hosted ones. So like there's BTC Pay Server, Now Payments. There's a bunch of like WooCommerce plugins for people that want to hook it into their. They want to self-host and hook it into their Shopify or whatever.
Yeah,
there is hosted ones. There is ones that where if you want your business to accept it, you just go talk to this company and then they set it all up for you and take a fee like Visa would take a fee.
And there's actually some incredible movement in this space. I don't know if Ofren's gotten a chance to hear about it. It's pretty new. But like I was saying earlier, Paul and Vic, the people who run Cake Wallet and Edge Wallet, and then some other people who are both prominent and very like secretive in this community. They've kind of buttoned up the projects that they were like previously on, and now they're getting pretty laser focused on improving both like the medium between paying in crypto and handling it, and then also upgrading business focused wallets to handle a lot of the accounting issues like for you. And they're working with like CPAs and a lot of other people to try to make sure that it's like true and correct to the current regulations as they're understood and so on. There is a lot of movement behind the scenes on this right now, but that doesn't change the fact that when you have multiple projects working in parallel, I think just to continue with the two examples that we have right now, Cake Wallet was absolutely incredibly user-friendly. Edge Wallet was incredibly business-friendly. And they've played, and they meet each other all the time, like especially at Monerotopia. In fact, a lot of the time they're pretty much just constantly at the same tables. The cross chatter on the ideas is amazing, and then all of a sudden you'll notice after Monerotopia, like 2 months later, they've robbed from each other's ideas and integrated it, and now they both pursue another direction, and then they rob from each other's ideas again. And it's very it's a beautiful thing, right, to see, you know, projects running in parallel doing this. So if other people have ideas for how to make this work, don't be intimidated by the fact that there's some heavy hitters moving in this space, because your ideas may be very unique and they may be very valuable and beneficial and so on. And one of the things that I hope is learned from this particular show, if people have hung in there for 3.5 hours, is what is going on here. If you are unaware, you know, Afrin is like a pretty prominent member of the actual dev portion of the community. And Evgeny, am I saying that right? I'm struggling. Okay, Evgeny, I believe you're the founder and developer of SimpleX, yeah. So you have two people that had communities that were being adversarial to each other, that are in a leadership position, that are now coming on a relatively neutral platform to discuss these ideas, get everything out in the clear and so on. So my suggestion to those who are on all of these different chatter platforms, this is the way to do it, okay? Instead of chiming in as soon as something is announced, do your homework, ask your questions, then take your position. Once you have a position, get in a space that's relatively neutral and talk it out. That is the way that we get to some solutions here, people. And I hope that everybody is learning from that, okay? Because anybody could be a Fed, okay? Anybody could be part of the Illuminati, but look at the words that are coming out of their mouth and then watch the actions that happen after they talk and see if they all line up. And if that's the case, that's the best you're going to do as far as evidence goes. Not everybody is a Fed. And even some people who have been Feds, they might not be anymore. So give them the benefit of the doubt, watch their actions. And I think this is an incredible first step to watch two people swallow their pride, do the right thing, and figure out what's going on.
Look, man, we never had any hostility with Afrin. Afrin has brought two largest Monero communities on SimpleX platform, and he's just very passionate. And I said, when I watched this last Monero talk show, I said, "Oh man, you're a fat spreader," like in a friendly banter way. So look, I honestly think that what Afrin does comes from the good place. He doesn't mean any bad, and I have absolutely no hard feelings about any kind of amount of emotions or criticism that comes out from people. If it's in the right,
there's no doubt he's a bad.
Exactly. Like, look, if it's in the right things, then we'll figure it out. If it's in the wrong thing, then we just have to just stop doing the wrong thing and start doing the right thing, right? So there is no way it cannot sort out, and no point having hostility. You said, by the way, that if I can comment, you said an interesting thing about maybe I don't know, maybe Afrin wants to say something about that. We were talking about him like a lot. Man, can you say something about it if you're here still?
It's nothing but bad blood for me. No, I'm just joking.
No, I think like, look, your communities, I think, exceptionally important, and you're doing a fantastic job. And yeah, whatever we don't understand, we'll figure it out. So I don't have.
Well, I think the Monero community was. It's the same reason we don't respect Zcash, because they don't fight for the same way we do.
Let's not promote.
But no. But I'm saying the reason we gravitated towards SimpleX was because it basically had the same sort of ideals as we do.
Yes, I think this whole idea that I will come to this show came from Afrin. Like, so there was this conversation, or was it somebody else? I don't remember. It was
me and Nihilist.
Oh yeah. That was him. Yeah.
On this topic though, because Doug isn't chiming in right now, I will do what I know he wants to say, which is, please tell me you're coming to Mexico City for Monerotopia. Right?
Fuck yeah.
Me.
Yes, I know everybody here would love it. Will you come to Mexico City in February?
Thank you for that, man. Thank you for that. I was going to try to pressure him. Thank you.
No. I'm
I'll
not
pay for your flight. I'll pay for your flight.
No. It's not a question of money. It's I can pay for my flights. I hate flights. That's not the point. Look, what I would be more than happy to do is to make online talk, like if you have some facilities with a screen on stage when audience can I can see the audience. I would be absolutely thrilled to make a talk at Monerotopia. I will even get a professional studio in London, whether somebody pays for it or not. Like if somebody pays for it, fantastic. If I not, I will figure it out, right? I will find a better camera and microphone than I have here. Actually, this one's also good enough, right? I think
that would do. That's good enough. We have some ghetto stuff.
When I do talk to the audience, I prefer doing it standing because then you can engage with the audience better. So I will figure it out. So if you want me to do a talk, I will be more than happy to do a talk, and I'm always happy. I don't think I can like afford. It's not a question of money, but afford like its time and commitment and health and whatnot, right? So like me flying to Mexico would be exceptionally disruptive to my life and my routine and to the business I'm trying to run on my own. I don't think the price will be like, no, I mean, there is some amount of money that will make me fly to Mexico, but yeah, I don't think it's within.
I am absolutely certain that Doug would be thrilled to have you as a speaker at Monerotopia.
So what's up, Doug? We gonna give him a slot?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, ideally we'd have him there in person, and then everybody could be engaging with him. And but I completely understand his situation. I try not to do the remote speakers, but we do it for a few. So we'll have Rucknium. Obviously, I would never want to miss out on that. But yeah, we could definitely add you to that special list of remote speakers that we could play on the main
instead
stage.
Of putting pressure on me, it turned out to be pressure on Doug. Doug, I'm sorry. If remote,
that's perfect. That's good.
You got skills. You got skills. Nobody denies that.
This is exactly what the conference is for. If you can't be there in person, adjustments need to be made to make sure that you get to be there. Yeah, and
I would more than appreciate it. I would obviously promote it and like So, but I would love something like this happen in London, right? So I can get there.
Okay, so here's my next question: will you have a banner printed, and will you send it to it? Yes, have a banner printed, or we can do it for you, or whatever.
I can absolutely do that. Yes.
Okay,
so I absolutely can do it. That's not a problem.
Yes, because Monerotopia, my understanding is, and I'm a pretty regular attendee, it's not just about Monero, it's about freedom promoting software. Particularly, we like open source software. And we try to advocate for all of those things and give everybody a chance to, just like at this platform, grill you as hard as they choose to, And then what would also be very interesting to me, okay? I could even give you a list of like relatively savvy tech individuals that would go there. It would be kind of nice if we could have a workshop to teach people how to install and use SimpleX. Would you be willing to assist with that? So in other words, if I could find somebody who's very tech savvy, currently uses SimpleX and so on, could we do a workshop that like you guys are promoting and so on to help people because Monerotopia is cool because there's a lot of people who are not tech savvy individuals who go to this conference because it's also like a giant party. It's like the most fun you've ever had in your life. It is not a stuffy, everybody walking around in suits, passing around business cards. It's lit. It's super cool. But those tech non-sophisticated individuals go there to learn how to use some of this kinds of software, because even though SimpleX and Monero are relatively easy to use, they're still outside of the scope of what a lot of people are able to do on their own. So would you be willing to help set up a workshop for people to use, install, and so on, SimpleX? And I have a feeling that a lot of those people would also like to see, as you kind of refine the idea of like the voucher gift card system, if you could make some time within your talk to explain that, and then make sure that the person doing the workshop is up to speed on how you expect it to go. This would have to happen by February, because also the guy doing the workshop would have to be up to speed on what he is going to transmit to the other people. Is that something that you would be willing to do?
I'd be privileged. It's like you're offering me more than I would dare to ask, right? So like, of course I will do it. I will help with all I can. Like we're doing what we're doing for people, right? I see the measure of our success, not how many lines of code we write, or not like, it's effectively how much value we created for people, how many people use it. That's why we're so committed to like efficient and reliable operation, for example, because that's what's important to people. That's why I want to get out of server business, because it's complex. It's not my business. So of course we'll help. I'll help with everything. I'll be there. I'll advise. I'll make talks. I can even mentor. If somebody wants to build a business, they don't know how to build a business, I'm happy to mentor people to help them build a business. I can make lots of help to people who will embrace the idea that if you create value, you have to be paid for that and not beg for donations, right? Frankly, right? I think the donation model is corrupt because it makes you accountable for sponsors and not to your customers. Right?
So I
will help with everything. Don't even ask that. Just tell me what to do. I'll do that. Talk, banner, workshop, whatever. Of course we will do it.
I will put my money and my time where my mouth is. I will find a person willing to be the, I'll find a person willing to be the workshop teacher guy who's going to be able to do the job. I'll even compensate for his time. No problem. And then since Afrin knows how to reach out to you, I'll try to get that person's contact information to Afrin.
I'm very easy to reach. I have a SimpleX address on my Twitter profile. I have the same address on my GitHub profile. Everybody who wants to reach me does it without a problem. They just do like, sometimes if I have doubts, I just do identity verification where I say, okay, this is the code, send it, or send me the code on Twitter. So yeah, please reach out to me directly. We don't need intermediaries to talk. I would be more than, I think, I would love to help you with anything you do, and obviously in making us present at the conference. That's for us.
Okay, I appreciate it, man. Thank you, sir. I will be reaching out.
Thank you. That's a privilege.
All right. Good job, Alaska. All right, guys. I mean, I'm down to round it off here. I got things to get back to over here. I'm down to round it up. I'm not turning my camera on right now because I got Penelope on my lap. But I think this was a great show. Really appreciate you taking the time to come out here and answer everybody's questions regarding SimpleX. I don't think anybody can, criticize you for not being willing to listen to feedback from your customers. So you're certainly listening to the community, and I think you're convincing the community in terms of what your proposal is. I think there's just a misunderstanding in terms of what exactly it was you were trying to do. So greatly appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, we'd love to figure out how we could get you involved in Monerotopia, just like Alaska was proposing. I think we figure out something like that. So thanks to everybody involved today. We do these shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to get back to organizing the conference over here. See you all next week.
Also, immediately after this, I will reach out to you over Twitter just so we know how to reach each other. We'll get all of our different contact stuff in order. So I appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Doug, thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all you guys and to the community. Thank you so much for making it possible.
Thank you. And we will leave it at that. Adios, guys.
Have a great one, guys.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube, ODYSEE, Rumble, Twitch, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on X or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.